First, there was Dueling Citizens, now Secrets from the Inside. Author Greg Meakin nails it again. Introducing Secrets from the Inside Radio Show. Raw, unscripted, uncensored, uncanceled. Secrets from the Inside starts now. With your hosts, Greg Meakin, Val Olson, and Captain James McCormick.
Secrets from the Inside, episode 006. I'm Val Olson. Thanks for joining the show today. Greg is going to be here in just a minute. I hope your day's off to a great start. We are full swing into Christmas season. It's a beautiful day in Arizona. I prefer sunshine over snow. That's me. How about you? I'd love to, if we get a chance today, talk about some holiday family traditions. Secrets from the Inside, episode 006. Good morning, Greg.
Sound this morning. How's my sound?
You are sounding wonderful.
Nah.
Clear.
You're talking about the weather, of course, because we're in Arizona, eh?
Yeah,
It was
holiday time.
7 degrees yesterday. I only talk Fahrenheit. You know that? I graduated from Celsius like 40 years ago after Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So I'm a Fahrenheit guy. 77 yesterday. Don't know what's going to be today, but my buddies up in Canada and up north need to close their ears because it's really, really nice in Arizona today, Val.
It's perfect. It's calm. The sun is shining. It's beautiful. Santa is probably out and about with his shorts and sunglasses on today.
How's your sound? Your sound sounds a little bit light, not tinny, but a little bit soft.
Okay.
Just FYI, you know,
better?
that's what we have our first little preview for, to mainly do a sound check, and that Greg sounds like Mr. Midnight and Val sounds great.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Sure.
I am going to try something else here.
Sure.
How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Cool.
Okay, episode 006, Secrets from the Inside. Wow, we have covered so much in these shows. Hard to believe we have 6 episodes in the can. That's what we used to call it in mainstream. Like when it's in the can, it means it's done, it's complete, it's in there forever. So in case you didn't know that term, Greg.
That's like that's a code word, right?
Yep.
Quick question too, again, because we're in our first we're not at the top of the hour yet, which is our hard start. Sound wise, I have an overhead fan going. Does that interfere at all, Val? Because I think in the past that might have interfered with one host's radio mic or another. Does it sound okay, or do you hear noise in my background?
You are just fine. I'll let you know if we have any interference.
Cool.
Fans are like low-grade problems. You know, that's a low-grade issue, Greg.
Oh, dude, and it's so funny. Just to update you real quick before we got about 5 minutes till our hard start. Top of the hour, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and yes, 10 a.m. Alberta and Arizona time. Just to update you, Captain McCormick, who's usually part of our trifecta, our trio of freedom, hosting here, is likely not going to be in today, Val. I chatted with him as usual by cell call because I'm a cell to cell phone call guy, right, Val? And this morning, and get this, he was babysitting his granddaughter I know because when I called him, there was almost a pocket pickup. You know, you get a pocket dial pickup, and it was a little baby. And I'll tell a story about that down the road. I think you remember one of my babies called 911 by mistake years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Knock, 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 the sheriff at the door, right? And this baby's the Colton sitting in the little middle of the living room with our phone in the old landline days, the phone off the hook. And the 911 operator said, I think it was a baby. So Cat McCormick, again, we got about 3 minutes here, but Cat McCormick probably will not be in. I welcomed him to parachute in. He was babysitting his granddaughter. And then I'm not sure. I think he might have been running down to the museum to be the general manager there and answer phones. Then he might have a Purple Heart meeting or two going on. Don't know if he's making a few national security phone calls or otherwise, but I think that's in between babysitting maybe his granddaughter later today. So he's busy. He's busy.
He is busy. Well, we should just catch up because I don't want to forget for people that are following this broadcast. He was busy. There was stuff going down at the museum. Any follow up, Greg? A couple episodes back, we touched on there. It seemed like there was some excitement there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Val Olson broke a story that episode, and it was about the museum in West Virginia. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The museum that he operates in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was vandalized. It was tagged, with the spray paint and all that stuff, blah, blah. You broke that story for folks that want to listen back. I think that might even be on my YouTube channel. But yeah, indeed, both the museum and part of the community were vandalized. So I told him that if he does parachute in today, I want to hear the end of that story, the accumulation, because it has to do obviously with crime and urban crime. Crime comes to West Virginia, Val. So I look forward to that. I really do hope he can drop in today. I do hope, and I do look forward to really catching up with you, visiting with you here in this next, hopefully 59 minutes in pursuit of a 59-minute show, Val, right? Our shows end up being an hour and a half. We have one that ended up being 3 hours, Val, and worth every minute. That was the Wendy Tepley Human Design episode. So I'll turn it back to you. I know we got the top of the hour coming up. I'm glad my mic works. Your mic works, and let's get on with the show. Real cool. This will be rebroadcast on YouTube. That will include that beautiful introduction, Secrets from the Inside introduction by Chris Branham. I think you've heard that. So anyhow, back to you. We're close to the top of the hour, Val Olson. We're right on time. Thank you so much for a good start to the day.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is episode 006, Secrets from the Inside with Greg Meakin. I am thrilled to facilitate this on my Twitter page, or X, I should say, on X. Get it right in case Elon just happens to pop by. And that is a very realistic possibility. I actually made connection with some of his peeps this morning. And it very well, if he does swing by, Greg, I'm going to let you know I'm booking a last minute guest, okay? I hope that's okay. You're the boss.
Remember what? The producer, the host, the pre-show guy. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, you're the everything guy. The show prep guy, the guest, the host, I was going to say booker because you typically book guests. And here I am just throwing it out there. I think it probably had something to do with my tweet earlier this morning. I don't know if we have time. I hate to do this, just throw last minute prep to you because I know a lot goes into planning of this show and you involve people across the United States. But if we have time this morning, I'd love to talk about Alberta. There's a lot going on there. And as you know, children are near and dear to my heart. So when I hear a story of one family or a million, 1 million, 1 million families, I want to do something. So yeah, if you have time later I'd love to spend some time on AB 51 stuff.
Well, I really like that idea. I really do like that idea that, as you well know, our shows really book up here with content and with guests. And indeed, it sounds funny, but I love this about live radio. We might even have like a guest or two drop in today. That's always the rule, right? We deal with really busy people, Val, right? Including like the captain today. And there's always two or three kind of informal invitations to pop in. So indeed, we might even get a pop in. You never know later today. But I so appreciate this. You bring up Alberta. I mean, seriously, you are the advocate. Okay, you're the advocate for Alberta. You're the medicine hat gal. I've known you for almost 2 years. You have your own distinct wheelhouse and brand, and you are literally living, breathing Alberta 51. And I don't want to ever put that off, although again, it's a subject matter both passionate to you and passionate to me. So as a matter of fact, just as kind of we're going on the fly here to start the show, give me a quick second. Let's actually talk about Alberta a little bit. Okay. Do you have anything kind of, and it's rare, as I say, maybe let's do this at the front of the show, because you never know, again, what the back of the show is going to look like. You never do know with Secrets from the Inside, how it's going to go or how it's going to come out. You know that, Val, I know that. So maybe we talk indeed about Alberta early a little bit. Do you have anything kind of before we jump into that? And I think I might have a little housekeeping a little bit on my end, maybe a few minutes before we do get into any subject matters. Do you have any kind of just burning desires, or whatever, any quick plugs you want to start with before we get into it, or even any anecdotes before we get into it, because we're just a few minutes into the show here. I'll turn it back to you on that, but we will definitely chat Alberta a little bit here.
Okay, this is embarrassing. I have a bulletin board, and I was taking notes on the fly, and I had housekeeping, specifically follow-up from the last episode, and I don't know how I missed it. Totally embarrassing here. It just says James meeting president. That was from the last episode, and I
by the way, in between probably, in between babysitting his granddaughter and everything else. Oh yeah, he said that, by the way. You have a good memory here, Val, or at least good note taking, because I remember that. He says by the ways that make your jaw drop. He said, yeah, by the way, Donald Trump invited me to New Hampshire when he was running to get my input based on my Purple Heart experience and national security experience and all this stuff. Yeah, by the way, I visited with Donald Trump for about half an hour while Karl Rove babysat my kids. And then he'll say, by the way, yeah, I know George W. Bush. That's a by the way. And he sent me a wedding present, which, you know what? I got to do that. I have to follow up to see what George W. and Laura gave him as a wedding present. So that was a by the way. I'm going to speculate here, but I have Captain James confirm this if he decides to parachute in today, or maybe for the next show. Is he's in correspond? He corresponds with major people. I think one including Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows him well. Donald Trump. So I don't know if that's the president he was talking about. Maybe it's W, because he keeps in touch with them. But I'll guarantee you one thing. Here you go, Val. You ready? Greg's going to say a political statement. Full disclaimer, right? Is he doesn't plan on talking to Joe Biden, because he already has.
Well, yeah, he's already done that. How's his washing machine? What did we find out about his washing machine?
Yeah, I think that was in between. I think that was before he probably reached out to President Trump. I'm not sure, but before he was wrestling with his washer and dryer.
Yeah.
In West Virginia. He got up. He has his, I'm sure, honeydew list or whatever. He worked like 9 jobs in addition to being retired and stuff. But yeah, he said, yeah, going down, wrestling with my washer, my dryer, trying to get it going. And that's what this gentleman's daily life is. It's not about the big stuff. It's about the little stuff, Val. And that's why we love him so much. But I don't know if you had any washer dryer comment there or whether you want to follow up with that.
Well, I was just wondering if it was the spin cycle or what the deal is. I was curious.
These are the questions. It's so fun. These are the questions we got to ask him. That's so funny. That is so funny.
I will put it on the bulletin board. I can stroke off president, and now I'll just 2 words: spin cycle. Okay.
Oh my God, you're always full. You know what? Funny, you're learning the Greg Meakin craft of wordsmithing. You always have 2 or 3 meanings in everything you say, right? Spin cycle.
Spin cycle is a critical cycle, Greg. When was the last time you had to do the laundry?
I'll do an essay about spin cycle, and maybe we'll even be able to segue that to like politics. Imagine that, or business. Imagine that. So very good. You're kind of feisty this morning, Val. Are you? Imagine that, Val Olson being feisty. Imagine that. I'll tell you what. Other than washer dryer, anything else kind of on your mind or your bulletin board before we get into something else?
No, that was the big one. I just wanted to stroke off James, president, and follow up because a lot of people are listening, and they want to follow up on what the latest is. So I just thought I better get that off the list to do my job. I'm an investigative journalist. The least I can ask is, what presidents are we talking about here?
Isn't it awesome? And seriously, and even the by the ways, because when we say big names, this is seriously, I haven't mentioned this on the air before, but Captain McCormick, he was in touch with General Mike Flynn, General Michael Flynn. And General Flynn actually gave an endorsement to the oil company guys. Remember that Oil Workers Association, and General Flynn's looking at and soon to hopefully be endorsing Sheriff Lamb down here. So that's almost kind of like one of those by the ways. Oh yeah, by the way, General, chatting with the general, he gave us some endorsements there. So you're asking the right investigative journalist questions right off of your Post-it notes on the bulletin board there, Val. Don't forget too. This is your kitchen table, right? And this is your kitchen table, and we sit around. You and I have sat here for, believe it or not, get this. I think this is 30 total episodes working together, and on Secrets from the Inside brand, this wonderful new brand, episode 6. So you and I are old partner buddies right now. We're always still 1,000% independent of each other. You think the way you think, I think the way I think. But it's been a really cool, actually, quite truthfully, Val, just a really nice collaboration. And I really do enjoy the connection that you have with your audience, and especially our dear friends in Alberta. I really do. I chatted with someone yesterday. It was interesting, up in Alberta, and he was a hockey guy. Imagine that. I mean, a hockey guy, meaning he was a hockey dad up there in a small town. I won't share, but it was really, really cool where this guy, also a deeply connected person in with hockey and in around hockey and stuff. And it was interesting because I chatted with him, and he was a diehard Albertan person, and very old. He's just kind of open to discussion and stuff about everything, including Canada and Eastern Canada and all that stuff. But in the end, we talked about, Val, seriously, and this is so fun. We talked about hockey. We talked about fatherhood. Because that's me, is fatherhood. Really, doesn't matter how big or small or little or tall someone is. I'm deeply, deeply committed to really fatherhood and mentorship and stuff. And I just wanted to assure folks, it sounds funny, but your connection with Alberta has been such a blessing to me because I've met so many people. I said to this gentleman, I said, I talk to more people in Alberta right now than I do in the United States, Val. Yeah. And my YouTube analytics indicate it, which is really cool. But in the end, I don't want to get kind of too wishy-washy to start the show, which I'll always do. But just want to say everybody's kind of together in this, whether it's all regular folks up in Alberta, regular folks down in the United States. I really believe in the 80-20 rule. I believe we all agree on 80% of the stuff. This gentleman, by the way, was a differing political persuasion to me, which is fine. I'm a multicultural, multi-political guy, right, Val? I'm the only guy that I know who voted for Pierre Elliott Trudeau twice. Can you imagine? I'm sorry. Can you imagine that? I'm the only guy I know that's voted in 2 Quebec referendums. As a solid no. I did not want for a minute sovereignty for Quebec, and especially with a wishy-washy kind of question. You should have seen it, Val. This is before you were basically born, but a long time ago. And the question was, I couldn't believe it. And I was a young guy, but it was sovereignty association. And it was a big question, big national question, big international question. But I couldn't even get through the question without it being overcomplicated. Sovereignty association. Okay, so what do you want? Quebec, you want to be independent of Canada. Okay, I get it. But you also want to have association, meaning still receive equalization monies. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. That's not independent, right? That's a teenager. Quebec was I wrote this, I published this. Quebec was like a teenager, a misbehaved teenager who wanted their independence and to leave the house, when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, but they have no way to do it on their own. So I'm surprised I chatted about that, but you get the stuff out of me every day, right, Val? You choke the secrets from the inside out of me. But when I say this, I segue really all the way back to saying everybody in Alberta, most of the people I know down here in Arizona, most of the people I know out there really in the world right now, they're squeezed financially. It's a tough time economically for people. Down here, gas prices virtually tripled. I mean, come on, man. So everyone's kind of being squeezed. Everybody at the same time is feeling, looking for our commonality. We're feeling commonality, that we're up against the same struggles, the same type of struggles. And one is freedom. I'll just say broadly, one's freedom. And the other is kind of the groceries and paying the gas and our utility bills and blah, blah, blah. But it again, as a kind of a little bit of a long monologue, I just want to reach out to everybody up there and say, hey, we quote all are in the same boat. I will forever and ever and ever, forever be an advocate of AB 51, Alberta 51. We've given folks a way to do it, or at least a business plan of how at least to get to that point. But either way, I still think we're all just kind of 80% trying to get along, trying to find our freedom, bringing the family together, making the home front more important than it was, be awesome hockey dads and hockey moms, that kind of thing. So bit of a monologue there, but thank you for that. And yes, indeed, I'd be happy to at least chat a little bit about Alberta today.
That's good, because I just want to unpack a little of what you shared there. Interesting, kind of referring to Quebec and when, they were going after sovereignty, you mentioned that it was like an irate kind of teenager a little bit. And when we look at what's happening in Alberta, you're not seeing the irate teenager. It's more like the parental unit is at a point where they can't properly feed their children. They can't properly clothe them over the cold winter months. Socialized medicine is an absolute farce and joke. They can't access proper care for their children. They can't afford the medications. This lie of, oh, it's all free. Grow up. Like, every politician touting that needs to grow up and sober up, because we're not stupid. So just a different dynamic there.
I'll tell you what. I love long form radio. I love live radio, because you really don't know kind of where the discussion's going. I'll just point out, you touched base and you talked about child hunger there. I just want to take a second real quick on that. That was, as you well know, we addressed that in a previous episode, Val. And I think it came out, I believe, on my YouTube channel as a clip, my famous clips, and I'm sure in the last few days or whatever, because I really wanted to be clear about that. And I'll give you a minute here, seriously. This was a big issue. I said to you, and I think it's on the clip. I said, Val, wait a minute. Are you telling me, and I'm serious, are you telling me that kids or seniors are have hardship up in Alberta, including hunger? And I mean it too. I'll say that right now live. Are you telling me? And I still pinch myself. I don't understand it. I don't understand it because the billions of dollars that are rolling in everywhere in North America, US and Canada and Alberta. And I clarified it at the time, and take a minute here. Clarified, are you telling me there's child hunger in Alberta? It's an astonishing question to even ask. Go ahead.
I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to sleep over so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes for walks during lunch. So
I can't hear your mic there. I can't hear your mic. I don't know if something happened there as you were.
I'm a 13-year-old.
Okay.
That's better.
Sorry about that. What we're talking about this morning is child hunger in Alberta. And so often we talk about how prosperous Alberta is. You know who's prosperous in that province is politicians. And when it comes to our senior population and when it comes to children who are at the mercy of adults to feed them, and there is not work for mom and dad because guess what? All these big government choices and happy socialist programs that are being thrown around under the conservative banner, they're garbage. They're not working. You know how I know that? Because there's empty fridges, there's empty cupboards, and it's a real problem. And I think Alberta forgets. They get out of touch and you throw these numbers around like 80% of us have stuff in common, that 80-20 rule. But the thing is, people that have children and people who don't have children, it's like they don't get it. And I don't know if that's the starting point of being out of touch, but it's real when a child is hungry and they can't function properly. Their brains aren't being nourished. And it's a huge problem. And this should be a big embarrassment for Danielle Smith. I mean, if I was the premier, I'm not, but I am an Albertan American. And this is nothing to sweep under the rug. This is a time where you want to come to the table and you want to address this. You want to address this. A lady premier has some opportunity, right? This is a chance for her to be compassionate, right? And say, not on my watch, because America's watching. The USA is our local government. They know with the Constitution, a constitutional government and how it works and what that would look like in Alberta to localize it. Like if you put how the Constitution, the US American Constitution, just as a blueprint, put that over Alberta, and Danielle Smith as governor of Alberta, USA, I'm sorry, but she would get a fail grade. And this is a track record, right? This is a public track record. We have conservative government in power, and you look at what's going on there, and it's an absolute shit show. It's an embarrassment. And it starts with our children, it goes to our seniors, and when the most basic of necessities like medications or access to proper health care, and when parents, I know parents that cannot afford to go to a grocery store and purchase hamburger or roast beef or a steak. And when the United States, I'm taking this message internationally, but here across the United States, I'll just focus in there, they hear that. Albertans are their relatives. Albertans are their friend. Albertans are their closest trading partner. And they want the data. They want the data. And the data is available. We know the data, the forensic poll. Greg, do you want to get into the forensic poll a little bit?
Boy, maybe a follow-up or another segment for that. I want to drill down here just for a quick second, because again, this was a child hunger issue, again, I so appreciate you sharing so passionately, and I just want to add one thing. There's so much to obviously chat about. I want to add one thing that has a personal experience to me in Quebec. This is probably my lane, really in a good way today. Because in Quebec, I was raised with universal healthcare. That's the word for it, cliche, talking point, whatever. And for the most part, during those years, and I'm talking 60s and 70s for the most part, it was great, Val. We actually had a local doctor, and we went down with an appointment basis and stuff. And it was weird because, of course, I've kept in touch with folks back there, not only from when I went to school, but especially family members. And it was odd because I wanted to, and this wasn't long ago, but I wanted to find out about the healthcare in Quebec more recently, in the last few years or whatever. And I heard nightmares, Val. I heard nightmares. And I'll talk specifically. I had a relative who had 2 children. And she would never take them to the doctor, even if they were sick. Just like that. I said, well, what are you talking about? Because at the time, and this is pretty recently here, Val, they had to, if one of her kids were sick and sick to the point of needing to go to the doctor, a flu or whatever, bad temperature, whatever, she would have to line up about 5 o'clock in the morning, hours before the facility opened, to simply get a place in line. And forget appointments. Again, this is one story, but it really bugged me. She had to wait for since like 5 o'clock in the morning to get an appointment. There was no appointments. It was still a clinic type of situation. And then once you got in, you'd literally have to wait again, like a clinic situation, till as late as she told me, like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then if they closed, they closed. I was stunned. So because of that, she doesn't take her kids to the doctor, Val. I have another friend in Montreal. Same thing. Where you don't even dream of going to an emergency room. Because of the wait, and of course the wait, and blah blah blah, and so all I know is the stories I've heard. And you touched on here a little bit the state of affairs with Alberta healthcare. I pray. The easy answer is AB 51, or establish your own truly beautiful cradle to grave type of healthcare, very much like the quality of service you receive in the United States. People can say what they want about U.S. healthcare, but it's absolutely incredible. I can say that because I've gone through it. It's incredible quality. People, we've said on the air before, the United States won't allow their citizens to die. That's a broad statement. But there are no, oh boy, I won't say it. I won't say it. They're called, in the old days, these were called death panels, where patients in universal healthcare are too old, and they're too old, or at least becoming a real burden on the system financially. We've had these. You got me going. I didn't think I was going to be talking politics today, Val. You
just take a minute, and I want you to go in about how USA doesn't let their citizens die, and then I'm going to take a minute and respond firsthand with what's happening in Alberta, and you don't want to miss this, people.
Wow, Val, I'll tell you what. I didn't think I was going to be chatting about this today. I'm very opinionated, and I have stories and stuff, but I didn't think I was going to be chatting about this today, but I will. Okay. I will. These are broad brush strokes, full disclaimer. I know people in Canada to this day who could get fabulous quote, healthcare. They still have a local doctor, grandfathered in stuff or whatever. And I also, on the same note, down here in the States, there are real tragic stories too. Tragic stories, whether it's some of the VA hospital issues or whatever. But for the most part, and this is a broad brushstroke, for the most part, I was absolutely stunned and blown away with how Canada started this assisted suicide stuff, Val. I'm just telling you. Saskatchewan, dial 5 for assisted suicide, right? Even with young people. Yeah. Even with young people, like military guys with PTSD. Go ahead, fact checkers, rock and roll. Rock and roll. If we're wrong here, because we've discussed it on the air, Val. And but that it just brought up a bigger issue, and it was actually just to drift back a little bit. It was at the time that that Buffalo Bills kid died on the field, collapsed on the field on Monday Night Football. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Everybody knew it. And again, my statement on the air the next day is he had died twice before he got out of the stadium. But American paramedics revived him twice. And it was at a real key moment in time where we were talking healthcare. And my statement was, what you saw there, and you'd see the same. You see the same with emergency personnel. Again, broad brushstroke in Europe and in Canada and stuff. But what you saw illustrated there was U.S. healthcare, whose primary mission is to save lives, regardless of what your age is, regardless of what your income level is, blah, blah. Biggest misnomer in the United States is that they turn away people to die in the streets. Nonsense. You walk into an emergency room in the United States. Again, there are stories, obviously, the tragic stories too. You walk into an emergency room in the United States, they'll save your life. Okay, I'll take it to the grave on that one because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I watched. Okay, I want. I've got some.
Can I talk about
stories.
Alberta?
Yes, please. Very, very good. But again, the broad brushstroke was they won't let them die in the United States. It's there to save lives, regardless of income. And sadly, everything I see of all universal and socialized medicine is they do have actuarial tables where they do actually either delay or forego care for old people, period. And I'll take challenges on that. But go ahead, back to Alberta, Val. Sorry to rant on that a little bit.
I don't mean to laugh, but if you just want to shine the spotlight on the other side of the 49th, Governor Danielle Smith of Alberta's, what she has going on in her operation here, not what you're talking about in the USA. If you want to talk equality between what's going on in Alberta and USA, saving lives, well, that wasn't the case for dear Sheila, who was denied life-saving treatment. Because she refused to get vaccinated. That's a cold, hard reality. Family doctors, and how many Albertans have access to family doctors? We should do a radio call-in show on that. And I would love, because you know how I am with mapping stuff out, I would love to know the names of who has a family doctor and what politician you're connected to, because all these things matter. I remember, my baby Erica, not a baby anymore, but I remember packing the kids up to go and just stand in line. What you were talking about, that line you have to stand up and that's a socialized medical program, right? That's what it is. It is what it is. You stand in a line and you wait for a doctor. You do. You pack the picnic basket, you pack food, and you wait in a line. But I know a fast track. So for you Albertans who are listening, this is officially a secret from the inside that works. I know this because I used to do this. So you can go to the methadone clinics in Alberta, and they also check with them because many of them have this, they will bump those that need their treatment or fixes or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me, but let's just put it under fix. They get to go first, but if you stand in the lineup, you get in faster. It's just way quicker to go to methadone treatments clinics to see a doctor than it is to stay in the average, wait your turn, stand in line just to see a doctor in Alberta. That approach does work. And can we put a price tag on time? It was hard juggling a little, new baby and trying to get into just anybody to, get medicine. It's a real problem. And that was years ago. It's only gotten worse in Alberta, not better. And it doesn't matter what, you could float Rachel Notley, Danielle Smith. I mean, one's a brunette, one's a blonde, blah, blah, blah. Same programs, different day. Now, if we take Governor Danielle Smith, there would need to be some equality from this side of the 49th, because you were talking, Greg, about how doctors save lives here, how hospitals will save lives versus what you see in Alberta. It's that, one shot, you get one chance, one doctor, one shot, there you go. And if that doesn't work, well, there's always the 511 line. And what that program offers is medical assistance in dying on demand, but only during government hours, okay? Because, government workers need their days off too. So you just come back when they're back and they'll hold your hand. Cradle to grave government programs at their best. That is Alberta in a nutshell.
It's, as I always say, what do you really think, Val? I love it. I love it. I address this in my book, and it's about the healthcare issue. We're talking about it. And all I will say, and that's to folks in Alberta and really in the States and state by state, is there's enough money to have absolutely phenomenal health care, the health care that we all dream of, and the health care that I and my family have received in our lifetime in 3 states in the United States. You can have absolutely fabulous health care. It must be market driven. It must be on a really clear model, which is established. I'd say this again. I'll pivot here. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, but it's important. You can have incredible coverage like I experienced in Washington State, was with Kaiser Permanente. And they were a large HMO. They're affiliated. It was like many of the hospital networks do, where they're, it's a conglomerate and stuff, but they were so beautifully managed. They had, it was literally appointment for everything, no problem, short notice, no problem, pharmacy in the facility, x-rays in the facility. They had it set up as a beautiful pod. It felt like an airport where you'd walk in and be greeted, and literally virtually everything was within pods, within this facility. But most importantly, they brought a personal touch. Not only was it just you present your Kaiser card and that you pay $10 or $15 copay, maybe sometimes zero. And you go down to your doctor, you got a personal doctor, relationship doctor. And I told this story. I told this a long time ago on the air. I believe it might, I don't know if it was with you, Val, or was it whether it was with Mike Phillip up in Edmonton. But I had said, I got a call one evening. I think I put this in. I put this in the book, my healthcare section. Got a call one evening when I was living up in the Seattle area from my doctor. And he said, Mr. Meakin, during your visit earlier today, it looks like you had a little weight loss, a little concern, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever. We had a whole phone conversation in the evening with him because he was worried about it. And I was like, wow, this is great care. This is great care. So you can have great care. I've heard even, we've got there were nightmare stories about the VA, but there are also good stories down here about the VA. And all I'm saying is there's plenty of money in Alberta. There's plenty of money in the United States. There's working business models right now that are beautiful healthcare. And I mean, Val, cradle to the grave. And the model that I set up in my book, I'm going off of memory, it was a checklist about 6 or 8 things that need to be done in order to improve healthcare. But we have the money to do it. We have the great people to do it. There are folks out there. So much is based on staffing, so much. You've got, honestly, some terrible employees out there in the world in general. And then you have some angels and Sally's, as I've written about, totally efficient, great, personable people. So I'll just wrap it up here on you can have great healthcare. We have someone, from what I see, parachuting into the show here too, Val, which is what our modus operandi here. You want to take the mic over here? I think I see him on the icon here. Boy, if we have a guest, that'd be real fun. And I know he's opinionated on this healthcare issue. So if you want to just introduce him, catch him up a little bit on our conversation, but I'm sure excited to see him here. Go ahead, back to you, Val.
Captain James has arrived, and I just want to say good morning and welcome and give you the microphone and fill us in, Captain James. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's been a little bit since I've been on here, but don't worry, I follow, I watch, I listen, and I catch up later as well. So that's what I like about this show. For all you folks that are listening now, great. Share this so that other people can listen to it later as well. This is something that maybe I don't have enough time to finish the show right now, but you can, you can come back and you can listen to different segments. It works really well that way. So it's good to be back on here. Was a little under the weather, couldn't speak hardly any at all last week. So I'm glad I got my voice back. And yeah, I know you were talking about the healthcare, and some of the, the good things and the bad things. I had a good relationship with the VA in Huntington, West Virginia. I went through a rehabilitation program, which was called polytrauma, and it was very, very good for me. I spent a year and a half in and out of that polytrauma unit. I was up there, at least 2, sometimes 3 times a week, going through, therapy, everything. I mean, everything, trying to get my body, my mind, my ability to speak better back. There was a period of time when I had a brain injury that, these brain injuries are funny. The brain injury sometimes does not, immediately manifest itself until, later. And then in some cases, years later or months later or weeks later. And then little things will start happening. I've seen people start to develop, they'll start to develop, mini strokes, and they'll lose the ability to be able to communicate, memory, cognitive functioning. All of these things can be, affected by a brain injury. And I think it's important to remember that when you're dealing with not just veterans, but dealing with people, kids that play football and everything else. I was a football player. I did the boxing, I did all of those things as well. And, my head was beat around like a basketball, by the Harlem Globetrotters. You know what I mean? It was just the way that it was. But the blast injuries are very significantly worse than what we had imagined. And what we're, also seeing is we're seeing people that we're suffering from these same blast injuries, like car wrecks and things like that. And then they start to, to deal with these issues later in life. So we got to watch that. So healthcare, here's what I tell you about this. Healthcare is dependent on the provider. So you can get a really good doctor. We got a great family doctor, Dr. Danny Westmoreland. Giving him a big shout out there in Mason, West Virginia. He's been our family doctor for a long time. Great guy, kind, genuine, generous, and knows us all by first name. These kind of doctors provide, a more reliable service. And I always think about old Doc on Gunsmoke. You know, you watch the old show Gunsmoke. The reason why he was a good doctor is because he cared and because he had a personal interaction. You know, when you set these hospitals and these medical facilities up, you know, like a like an assembly line, then it doesn't work too well. And so those are just my 2 cents on that. So, anyways, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Really appreciate that. You know, we were chit-chatting before, you know, imagine James being governor of Alberta 51. Now, you just said you had a family doctor. James, if you were actually, you know, to pick up stakes and move to Alberta, that wouldn't be the case. You would be having to stand in line, just typical what you would expect to see in any other random communist country. No, you know, socialized medicine is what it is. So completely different from USA to Alberta. It would be a real shock to your system, to say the least. Greg, over to you.
Well, I so appreciate James' input there on the healthcare world. We've had a lot of chats about this in the past, on past episodes, Val. Really cool. We talked about the VA and all this stuff. And you brought up something, I'll just say it right now. Interesting. The old quote, governor of Alberta, the concept of Alberta being 51st state, becoming American and stuff. And I, in previous episode, nominated Captain James McCormick to be governor of the brand new state of Arizona, I love it, Alberta. And he accepted, just as, again, whether it's informal or whether it's symbolic right now, but he had mentioned that's something he'd love to do. And in the past, remember this, Val, I nominated Sheriff Mark Lamb as the first law enforcement director or sheriff of the new state of Alberta. And as kind of symbolic and quote fun as they may be, I think the important thing, the important message for me to really Alberta 51 people, just the 51 folks, and there are a lot of folks that are not admitting publicly that they're AV 51 folks, but they are, is just to say to those folks that to really, if your pursuit really is to become, it's to become, yes, an American state, but it's to keep your own identity, everything. Alberta is a wonderful, wonderful province. I love the folks up there. You've got your oil, you've got your hockey, you've got your culture, and there's no reason you have to leave those behind. You just live under the protection of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Simple as that. So if there's just kind of a message to folks up there would be start thinking like an American. You know, keep your Canadian. I'm half Canadian, Val. I'm as Canadian
Like
as the day is long, but I'm American too. But start thinking like an American in terms of your governance, your even your leaders. Again, even like governors, whatever. My initial first blush is I love the idea of having American leaders who are American leaders initially to bring the culture, at least the culture, the protection, to the people. But bottom line, here, the overall message is start thinking like Americans, because as we know, without getting too long and cliche, it feels really good. It feels really good to be living under protection and not, again, protection of the Constitution, and not having the real worries that a lot of my Canadian friends have had lately as far as censorship and a little bit of oppression. And we've heard about frozen bank accounts, and we've heard about this and that. So turn it over back to you on that, Val, if you want to chat with James or whatever. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on it, is start thinking like Americans a little bit. There you go.
I like that. Well, you know, I do have 2 Americans on the show today, and one who, you know, could potentially be governor someday. I don't know if Danielle Smith just thinks it's a shoo-in, because that's really the style of Alberta politics, is these lifer politicians. But I'm kind of curious, Greg, like you've piqued my interest. James, um, you know, what kind of politician in Alberta would you be? Like, what would you say to these, you know, establishment type? How would you address them, and, you know, diplomatically, if you think you could handle something like that?
So you're asking me that question, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing is that we remember that once they become American citizens, that we dive into the U.S. Constitution and make sure that every citizen fully understands how that works. And then we look at some of the state constitutions, like, say, for instance, for Texas, or for my home state of West Virginia, or other states that represent a level of freedom that that seems that it would be more acceptable. I think that's whenever we start to look at, because you're going to have to write a constitution, you're going to have to write a charter, you're going to have to write all of these things. When you establish a new state, just like every other state had to do. During the Civil War, West Virginia wrote theirs. Imagine that. You're breaking away from Virginia and you become a state, in the middle of a civil war. It requires a level of professionalism. It also requires someone with the strength. And I'm not just talking about the physical strength, and I'm not talking about a dictatorial strength, because you don't need that. You need someone with the strength and the ability, but also the civility to be able to sit down and try to unify Alberta into the 51st state of the United States of America. And I can do that. I really believe that I can do that for several reasons. Number one, I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty. Number two, I believe that the citizens would respect a out front leader because they very much, all of the citizenry up there that I know demonstrate that American pioneer spirit that truly expanded the Old West and made America, to really go from sea to shining sea. So we're really looking at a whole group of patriots there that would have the ability to fully understand and comprehend that. And then they'll enjoy a couple of things. They'll enjoy a lot of things about the freedom that comes with the Constitution. Now, some will have a hard time to adjust, leaving more of a socialist styled government that provides a lot of things that people don't think about. But I think that once you allow free market to take over, and people that really become free and have the ability to be able to sustain that freedom, I think you'll see that they will warm up to that really quickly. All states had to go through these transitions. Look, let's look at the Oklahoma Territory when they did their transition. Let's look at all of these states that were once territories and not actual states. They had to struggle, and then they had to get used to operating on their own. But I would say that a place like Alberta, within year 3 to 6, would see the transition and they would flow right into it, just like a river flows into a perfect pocket. And they would find themselves in a position to where then they could take their natural resources and some of the things that they normally don't have control over, they would have control of that. Because, see, then they would fall under Article 10 of the United States Constitution, our Bill of Rights. When you look at Article 10, anything that's not specifically designated in Articles 1 through 9, are handed and delivered to the states. So they would have some freedom to be able to control their own destiny. Like you see these states that are around here, they're able to compete for businesses to come in. And some of the natural resources that are in Alberta would make it extremely attractive to the energy industry and to be able to become a major player in that field. You would see millionaires, people become millionaires because then they retain property ownership, and property ownership that would allow them to be able to negotiate and do things that they normally couldn't be able to do in the situation that they're in right now. You would see people be able to start businesses much more easily, and then have the established offices of Secretary of State. You would have an Attorney General's office. You would have, an auditor's office, a treasurer's office. You would have all of these different supporting agencies inside this state government, and then you would have elected leaders. So imagine that, not appointed, but elected leadership. So that would include your state delegates and your state senators. And that would be based on population. And then you would be able to have at least one U.S. congressman and 2 U.S. senators to represent the state of Alberta in Washington, D.C. So we're talking a lot of opportunities here, folks. We're talking, I could see a military base. That would be one of the first things that I would lobby for, would be to put the whole North American command for the United States Armed Forces in dead smack dab center of Alberta. You would see, billions of dollars that would be flowing in from that. And then you would have, automatic protection, because, that's a strategic value place as well. Look how close we can get to go over the North Pole. I mean, look, it won't take us very long to get to the heart of our enemies if we need to do that. So this is a strong position, a strong defense position to have as far as the United States goes as well. And it would make you a strong player in all things. And then not to mention the industries and the sub-industries and all the things that would flow from that. The job creation would be massive. I think you would see an improvement in your roads. You would see an improvement in your bridges. You would see an improvement in your infrastructure. You definitely would see an improvement in your medical care, because then you would allow that free enterprise, and you'd be able to buy insurance, and you'd be able to select your own, your own provider. Whereas, now there's, I've heard good and bad about Canadian healthcare. I've heard good and bad. Okay, it's the same thing with VA healthcare. VA healthcare is a form of socialized medicine. Some of it's good, some of it's not good. The wait times are what's really bad. So if I'm someone sitting there with pancreatic cancer or something that's deadly, that I need something done really quick or I'm going to die, I would much rather be able to go out and shop and look around and, get the money and pay for my own care and services. You understand what I'm saying with that? The other thing is the natural resources. And then don't forget what a great tourism place that would become. And then you would not be burdened with, we wouldn't have to have a passport to travel from Alberta to the lower, to the lower 48. We would have, access to, beautiful vacation opportunities. Tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry, folks. And I think that, once you open that up, you would see massive amounts of tourism that would be flowing across your border. And then the other thing, we add an added buffer to our border crisis that we have now. No longer would we have to worry about that section of the northern border, where all kinds of, it's just crazy what we're seeing. We watch the southern border, but we all know that there's some bad hombres that are getting into Canada, and they're making their way, across the northern border as well. So we understand as Americans that it would be a difficult transition, but I think as a rock solid governor, someone that wouldn't be afraid to roll up their sleeves, I'd be happy to do that, or at least try to be the governor of Alberta. Thank you very much.
Wow, I appreciate the honesty, the boldness. You don't see that style of diplomacy in Alberta. It's much more how can I describe it? Like scared, and it's really hard to watch, especially when it's men. I have a tough time because like men are strong, and when I hear your courage, James, and your vision, I find a lot of these Alberta male politicians, they lack a vision, and they're just very timid, very meek, and we need to have these bold leaders with a vision and not afraid to stand up for the people and say the truth. So I really appreciate that, James.
On that subject, Val, you're hitting on something I really want to key on, because listening to Captain McCormick, it's not cliche. These strong men are strong men. The quick example of a story you're familiar of, Val, when we did, because Captain McCormick, just from an American feisty standpoint, like you've heard here, is a born leader. He's a born leader, as was Sheriff Mark Lamb down here. And again, it's not cliche. American courage and leadership, I think, is different. At the campfire, remember our campfire chat where we interviewed Sheriff Lamb for over an hour live, and before the campfire, because we had it beautifully filmed, and I said, Sheriff, this is not going to be live. We're taping it and stuff. So if there's any questions that you're concerned with or don't want to answer or whatever, let me know up front, blah, blah. And that's honestly what I was used to in the Canadian press, Val. And he said, hell, he said, ask me anything you want. I ain't scared. He said, quote, I ain't scared. Ask me anything you want. And there's that feistiness of American leaders, and I think there's an element of that up there too, Val, in Alberta. But that are the Sheriff Lambs, the James McCormicks. They've been an example to me. Just how James was literally, he went through reviewing Alberta, what he would do as governor of Alberta. There's a born leader right there who will say it publicly. So I just really appreciate that, and to know it's not cliche. I do not see a lot of that up in Canada, to broad brushstroke that, because of the limitations everyone has up there with free speech and being careful what they say, and censorship, and it's just the way it is, everybody. So cheers and salutes to Cap McCormick on that. Salutes to the Mark Lambs and the other amazing leaders out there, Val. I just wanted to touch on that it's not a cliche. It's true. Courage and leadership are real.
And they're contagious too. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not have heard in Alberta, because everyone is following. Like, Tuck is coming to Alberta in the new year, but there's these bumper stickers and Danielle Smith, Governor of Alberta, USA shirts that are like selling like hotcakes, I hear. And I mean, it's true. I went and I did a little research on the back end, and there was like, I think it's close to 75 or 80,000 engaged with this bold shirt of her as the governor. But hearing James and how James has this vision. I mean, I've never heard a vision like that for Alberta. Those are big shoes to fill. Like, if I was running, I'd be nervous coming up against James. That's a bold vision. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not in the bag, because she's a fairly confident politician. I think she's gonna, if her staff are on this morning, they're gonna hear what James is saying, and don't assume you've got it in the bag, right? Like, don't assume, oh yeah, I've got the governor's spot. Danielle Smith, the t-shirts made, the bumper stickers out, and just saying it's not a done deal. Captain James was really impressive.
And Val, it's true. And by the way, I've always said this. I like Danielle Smith. I think she's a broadcaster in the past and stuff. I like her. I think she's a very honorable leader. I think she's handcuffed by Canadian Confederation, but that's another story. But can I segue just really, really quick to James, to Captain McCormick on this? I want to hear, it's been on my mind, what happened to his museum, the vandalism.
Oh, yeah.
And also what wedding gift he got from George W. Bush and Laura Bush. That's been on my mind. So, yeah. Just, not to switch directions, but I'd love to hear you on that one, Captain.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, first off, let's go with the vandalism. So, of course, you all know that we talked about we have a museum. We had to build this museum and had to get it funded, and constantly staying up on that. But somebody vandalized it. Turned out to be a 17-year-old kid, and we were able to catch him because we've got camera systems. We're locked in here, and the beauty of it is that I had a chance to meet with the boy and with his grandmother, and spend some time with him. And honestly, there's two ways you can go with this. I can go with the way that a lot of people were saying, prosecute him as a juvenile, which really, you know, it's just going to cause him problems in his future. Or I could potentially get some work out of him. So what we did was we worked out probably the best case scenario, and that was 24 hours of community service. And during that community service time, I don't have him sweeping floors and doing menial tasks. I'm actually talking to this young man about leadership and about doing things while you're here. So you're not just going to come here and sit and say, welcome to the museum. You're going to interact with the public. We're going to teach you how to take care of this aquarium. We're going to teach you how to take care of artifacts. And when you leave here, you're going to have a skill, you know, and you're going to have a full understanding of who I am and the kind of person I am, because I'm going to take 24 hours, okay, over 3-hour periods every week, 3 hours every week, and I'm going to work with you. And you know, I think the kid appreciates it. You know, we've already had the discussion about the military, and I'll just tell you that a lot of people are shying away from joining the military, and I would encourage folks to not look at the military as a last option, but you really need to look at it as your first option. And here's why I tell you this. Service to your country builds on your character. Now, are there problems in the military because of this current woke agenda? You know, a lot of people say, oh, I hate hearing the woke agenda. Well, yes, this boy is a product of the woke agenda. This boy thinks that it's okay to go up and do what he did, and pretty much that he wasn't going to face any kind of punishment, because the worst thing I could have done was to take it to court, and they would have said, you know, we'll put you on probation until you turn 18 years old. We'll make you pay a $75 fine plus court costs. And that's nothing. What does that leave with that gentleman? That leaves him with, you know, I basically did it. I paid a little bit of a fine, and this guy's a jerk. You know what I mean? Because all he wanted to do was give me a bad record. So we had an opportunity to correct that. And I think that what's going on now is that they are being educated by the quote unquote, you know, I'm just going to say it. We called them shithouse attorneys when we was in the military. And these are people that think they know everything. And they're generally your same age, never done anything outside of go to school. And they're out here educating these kids because they're watching stuff on social media. They're watching Joe Biden trip on bicycles, and they're watching Kamala Harris, you know, make outlandish comments. They're watching the Palestinian movement. You know, they're out there chanting this from the river to the sea, not even knowing what it means. And then they're being confused by, well, maybe I was supposed to be a woman instead of a man, you know. So we have all these things that are going on, and it's being pushed by this group. And like I said, we have to get that under control. So the best way I can do that is to give that guy some community service and allow him to be around a real red-blooded American that's not going to be afraid to talk to him like I would talk to any one of my sons. And I have done so. And he has accepted it very well and starting to straighten out a little bit. Now, I'm going to get him to get a haircut next, and he may not like it, but, you know, we have a dress code here, and you're going to follow it. If not, then, you know, we'll go to option 2. And that's just the way we need to start being. That's the way businesses used to be. So what's the second part of the question, Greg, before I go into anything else? Is there anything else I need to hammer on that?
What you're touching on, and then we'll wrap this little portion up, other than talking about the wedding present from W. Yeah. Okay, but I want to wrap this up. You're hitting on a very, very important thing, and what you're talking about is leadership, mentorship of young people, of young men. Okay, it's what Jordan Peterson does. It's what I do. It's what Lamb does. It's what you do. And that's the missing link right now is leadership. Going to tell you a very, very quick anecdote that applies to this. I actually took when I went to school a million years ago back in Quebec. I took a police technology and learned a lot of just about the police world, the law enforcement world and stuff. And the big issue was at the time was recidivism.
Sure.
Which is to do the crime again.
Mm.
Just tragic numbers that if you've been incarcerated, it's like 80% recidivism that you go back.
Yeah.
And there was a statistic that honestly, James, it stayed with me since I'm talking a long time ago, 1977, 78. Yeah. The statistic is that when kids, and especially young men, because they become the criminals, young men are the criminals.
Sure.
If they are confronted their very first time, and this is what Sheriff Lamb calls at-risk youth, they're 10 to 15.
Sure.
But if they're confronted the very first time and basically given what you're sharing, it's kind of a wrist slap legally, not getting into the legal world yet, because that puts them into the legal world funnel and databases. But it's basically teaching them a lesson that it was astonishing statistics that most people, if just after doing their first crime, if just taught a good lesson at that point and then cut loose, no questions asked, they don't do it again. It's stunning, James. It's why you didn't offend and I didn't offend because of our parents when we were young.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the key is, how do you accomplish that? How do you do that in terms of a program? And the answer is, I've already written within a book review, is Sheriff Mark Lamb's Youth Redirection Program. And I'll leave it at that. Val's read that, and to me, it was like an answer. And it's very much like you transformed, quote, court-ordered community service into 24 hours of pure leadership and mentorship.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's no value into just going out picking up trash on the side of the road.
Exactly.
Other than making people feel good, you know.
Yeah, it's published, so I'll leave it. But what the sheriff does, he does it's whatever 2-month program for kids 10 to 15 at risk before they're official offenders. And he puts them through, again, guidance courses, counseling, horse therapy, you know, and blah, blah. And these kids, it turns out there's 97, 98% success rate.
Yeah.
They don't reoffend. And what happens, and these kids develop relationships with these mentors. I'm going to be going in as a speaker. He's invited me to go in as a speaker, as a mentor to these kids. But they don't reoffend, James, and then they become what you're talking about, productive young men. They go to the military or they get a good job and they pay their bills and blah, blah, because you dealt with them right the first time. So there you go on that. Really, really cool. And don't forget the W wedding present.
Yeah. Well, you know, look, we've got a couple things from that family. And of course, I've got, you know, Donald Trump ties, like I told you that. But let me go into this mentorship. I think it's very important. And I think this would be part of the thing that I would do if elected as your governor in Alberta, is that I would definitely take mentorship to the next level. You know, we have things that we do in our state and in other states, just like what I'm talking about. But you have to have youth leadership. So every year, it's not as good now. It needs to be improved upon. But every year we bring kids into the legislature to serve as pages so that they understand how the state government works. Now, you know, most of them are kids of other politicians or their buddies or, you know, things like that. And but I'm very cognizant of grabbing kids that never would get that opportunity. So I go to schools. We look for people. We look for kids, and I'm not looking for the number one child. I'm looking for the one that's struggling right now because they need something to motivate them. And maybe it's not this day of serving as a page on the Senate or the House floor, but that experience is one that generally helps to boost their ego just a little bit. I go in and I look and I see, you know, look, our kids are beat down. They're beat down. They're beat down with excessive schoolwork. I've got a son right now who is in the 9th grade, honors algebra, honors English, you know, cutting 100, pushed, push to make 100 plus, constantly working on something, constantly doing something. And I'm thinking, where's the time to play and be a child at? Because the schools have put so much on them, because they're told now he could goof off, he could clown around, and drag home B's and C's, and be a perfectly fine student. But that's not what he wants to do. And the thing that they have made this brass ring so much higher for them to reach, I think it's important for us as mentors, men and women, to teach these kids how to be men and women, to teach them how to serve in their roles, and stop ignoring the dang 10,000-pound elephant in the room when these kids start going off of a rail and start following some of this leftist nonsense, garbage that you're seeing pushed down here. Look, it's not okay for you to go out and to destroy things, to tear things up, even though you think that it can be justified because you're doing it in the name of BLM, the Palestinian movement, or some sort of an anti-establishment movement. It somehow makes it okay. We need to start telling them that any kind of acts of destruction and violence like that are wrong. And that goes for all sides. The other thing that's woefully missing is the ability for people to be able to express their feelings, how they feel. In schools right now, I've got kids that go to school that are young, okay, and they sometimes deal with bullies. Well, when I went to school, we dealt with the bully. You just had to stand up to the bully. In my day in school, it wasn't, well, if you do anything, you get kicked out of school. No. You could defend yourself. Well, schools nowadays don't allow that. And they wonder why kids hunker down in a damn corner when somebody comes in there threatening violence in a school. They hunker down. They try to teach them to hide. And that's a good thing to do to keep them from getting hurt and getting killed. But I'm telling you, they're afraid to say anything or get involved. So a lot of times they know this kid's going to come in there with the firearm and they won't say anything because they're afraid of getting in trouble, because our educational leaders are not allowing them to stand up and to be young men and women of character and decency and honor and integrity, and stand up and say, no, you don't have a right to get up in my face. No, you don't have a right to yell at me because I'm black, because I'm white, because I'm Jewish, because I'm whatever, okay? You don't have that right. And we're not teaching our kids to stand up. They're teaching them to be sheep, and they're being pushed around and led down this pathway of destruction that is going to destroy this country. And I'm telling you right now, the first thing that you need to do when you dealing with states is you have to get control of this educational institution as well. And you need to make sure that they're teaching nothing but fundamentals of education. I don't need them taught in the ways of whatever. If you want to do that, then you set up debate teams and you allow these schools to debate, current topics with each other. You give both of them a side to take, and you allow them to openly to be able to say and to speak the way that they want to speak. I'm telling you right now, folks, if you want to know what's going on, why people ride on a subway, the most ungodly thing I've ever seen is grown men setting their asses down on a subway while pregnant women are standing up, holding on to a rail while a subway's moving. That would have never happened. That would have never happened in the 50s. That would have never happened in the early 60s. And it would never happen with me, because there's no way that I could plant my butt in a seat and sit and watch some old woman or somebody that is feeble or somebody that is pregnant bouncing around. You see, we have to learn to teach men to be men and women to be women again. And I think that's important. So that's my hopes with this. Now, some people will disagree with me, Greg and Val. They'll say that I'm old-fashioned. They'll say, well, you're just a bigot or whatever. Shit, anytime that they disagree with anything you say, that's what you are. You're a bigot. you must be you must be a racist. You must be a sexist. You must be these things. No, I just realized my wife realizes that there's things that she does that I can't do. And there's things that I do that she can't do. Like I can't have a baby. Okay. But she can. And she's done it very well many, many times. Okay. And we have beautiful children. She gives a level of nurturing and love in our home that demands respect. And the boys, my boys to this very day, they love their mother. They would never disrespect their mother. They still walk up, they kiss their mother on the cheek, they give her hugs, they tell her that they love her. Okay, 30 years old, and they still do that, okay? Because they know that that's just the way that it is. And I think that that is an absence. There's an absence of that. So then you go to school, your teacher's got your kids longer than you've got them. So, you that are out there doing homeschool, God bless you, because you're not allowing that to happen. But if you are one of those that have that happening, you need to be very, very involved and understand what they're being taught and listen to them when they come home. I'm afraid to stand up to this person because I'm going to get in trouble, but they keep picking on you every day. And when they pick on somebody every day, that destroys their self-esteem a little bit every day. And because they're afraid of getting in trouble by turning around and saying, leave me alone. Speaking up now will get you detention home. If somebody walks up and slaps you upside the face and you knock the crap out of them, let me tell you, when I went to school, it got you a pat on the back from the coach. Stand up for yourself, boy. Don't let somebody push you around. It didn't get you kicked out of school. It got that other person kicked out of school because it was the person that started it. So what's happened to that? What's happened to holding people accountable? And that includes these kids. These kids are taught this crap at their homes by either the presence of a terrible parent or the absence of a parent. But whatever the case may be, it takes a village to raise these kids. And sometimes the best thing that can happen to them is for you to let those kids that are getting bullied just wallop the shit out of them, and then they'll realize that I can't do that. There is a punishment for my actions. All right, I'm going to stop there. So it's not all about violence. Sometimes you can stop it by saying, stop, But teachers are embedding it into these kids' heads. Don't say nothing. Run away. Walk away. You're teaching them to run away the rest of their life by doing that. And I'm telling you, guys like me had to take kids like that over to places like Iraq and Afghanistan and teach them, no, it's not okay for you to run away. You have to stand and fight, son, or you will die. They will shoot you in the back just as well as they'll shoot you in the face. And you have to teach a level of courage because we see this in public school systems where they're destroying it. I'm going to say one more thing about schools. MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I just got accepted to a course there in 3D printing and additive. It's very hard to get accepted into MIT. Okay, it's not an easy thing. But I just recently saw where, again, radical, Islamic supporters on the campus are terrorizing these Jewish kids who are afraid to leave their freaking dorms. And when they stand up for themselves, they are called down by the staff. Nothing that they can do. They don't even want them to wear their Stars of David as necklaces around the campus. So do you think I'm going to write a $6,500 check, okay, to MIT and to transfer probably $40,000 of my GI Bill money to them? Hell no. When that came out, and this is what we need to do as Americans, when you see institutions doing those things, stop giving them your money. They'll get it whenever they start running out of money. And you tell them exactly why you're not going to give them their money. So I wrote a letter to MIT, put it on one of my social media posts today, that I will not be attending their course, and I don't care. You know, MIT would be a great sheepskin to hang up on my wall, but not when they've got that kind of reputation. You know, I think that my honor and integrity is more than that. I would rather go to the local vocational school at this point, where I don't have to listen or put up with any of that garbage, because I won't put up with it. Like I told you guys, here is a whole different ball game. You're not going to bring that nonsense here to New Haven, West Virginia, or Point Pleasant, West Virginia, because we got people here that's not going to put up with it. And if the rest of the country would do the same thing, and I'm not talking about violence, folks, I'm talking about stand up for your damn rights and stop sitting in the corner and being a mouse. Stand up, be a man, be a woman, be an American, and stand up for your rights. Now, let's go into this present from the wedding gift, all right? Can we talk about the wedding gift now, Greg?
Secrets from the Inside by Captain James McCormick. What did George W. Bush and his wonderful wife, Laura, gift you for your wedding day?
Well, let me tell you. So first off, I got to meet him July the 4th, 2005 in Morgantown, West Virginia. Very, very genuine man. And he got an invitation to my wedding, you know, and I married my beautiful wife that I'm married to now. Been married to, you know, almost 20 years now. And every day it's like, you know, it's like we just got married last week. So it's just a great time for us. We got this beautiful letter, you know, from the president, signed by the president, signed by Barbara Bush, or not Barbara Bush, gosh. I'm going way back to the president before, but signed, you know,
Laura
by
Bush.
Laura Bush, and we got a gift. You know, we got a gift. We got it was a beautiful piece of ceramic. I think I told you about that. That is, you know, it's invaluable to me. You know, but it wasn't cheap. I will just tell you, they don't give you junk. But for me to be able to get something like that as a wedding gift, you know, a picture. It was a beautiful picture, and it was in, great Texas. You know, what I would, you know, the Texarkana style, beautiful blue hue to this thing, almost like a turquoise look. You know, imagine getting something like that. I mean, it's just amazing to me. But you know, that's not a great big secret, but it's a little secret. And of course, you know about the Donald Trump ties. I got a pile of ties. My boys all got a tie. So,
James,
you know.
You glossed over one thing I'd like you to touch on, okay, about the W story.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet him? What people don't know, what you will not say publicly, is he requested your present. He was taking pictures of you.
He did.
And I'll let you, this is James time here, Cap McCormick,
Mm-hmm.
man. Take a few minutes of how you met him, and also that he used your advice and words. Go ahead. Yeah. Take the mic there, Captain. I want to hear this again. This is so cool.
Well, let me tell you, you know, when I came back, I faced, you know, some of this, you know, that we had protesters. Okay. So don't think that protesting was just, you know, during the Vietnam generation. We faced our protesters as well. And most of them were, you know, again, the same jackaloons that you see now, you know, out there running around, you know, screaming for Palestine, screaming, you know, shit. They just find something to, you know, to cry about. I mean, you know, transgenders, having babies, all this other garbage, you know. So when I saw some of this happening and the effects on some of the Iraq war veterans in particular, well, you know, I wrote a letter to President and George W. Bush. And I said, essentially, sir, I want you to know this is who I am. And I gave him my name and my unit. I said, this is what we've done. And, you know, while you are seeing people pushing back and saying that there's no weapons of mass destruction. I can tell you this, that, what is a chemical artillery? We uncovered several chemical artillery shells. So, that's a weapon of mass destruction, people. And so nobody can deny that. We had soldiers that were wounded because they used these chemical shells as roadside bombs. So we've had soldiers that were, that literally got nerve gas while they were overseas. So I don't know who keeps saying this garbage that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Then they come back and they say, well, it wasn't meant to be. Come on, man, don't be stupid. Al-Qaeda gets a hold of that. Number one, Saddam shouldn't have had any of it, but he did, and he had a lot of it. And Saddam was a bad guy, unbelievably bad guy, and I can vouch for that on many fronts. So when I wrote this letter, it was because I was partially infuriated dealing with these people. Dude, they would show up at your welcome home ceremonies. Okay. There would be 99% of the people would be good, but there would be a jackaloon out there, or two or three, holding a sign, no blood for oil. We support the troops. We don't support the war. I'm like, yeah, get the hell out of here. It's like, I'm not ashamed of anything I did over there. And I sleep pretty good with all of it. So writing that letter to President Bush was based mainly on the fact that I saw him. That's my commander in chief. And you're talking bad about us. You're talking bad about him. And I can see this spiraling. We watched the protest. Craig, you saw the protest after Vietnam. You saw how those guys were treated. I saw that as a kid, and I watched that demoralize my father. And I was not going to sit back and just say, well, I'll just ignore it, go take my uniform off. No, bullshit. I wasn't going to do that. So I wrote a letter to the president. And the president, I explained to him that we have pride and that we are honored and proud of the job that we've done. And I explained to him some of the missions that we were on. And I said, from Baghdad, from Bunker Hill to Baghdad, was the famous saying that I made in there. There are many of us that are honored to serve in the United States military, and we will go back again and again and again if necessary to defeat this enemy. And next thing you know, I get a call and said, hey, the president wants to meet you in Morgantown, West Virginia. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And I mean, literally, kind of like we're talking on this radio show right now. I don't get excited over those things, man. Because it's like, I've been to a lot of these things before. Okay, so you're going to have me stand out in a crowd with 10,000 other people. That's what I figured. Well, I was wrong. When I got there, the first thing I got done was I got picked up by Karl Rove. Karl Rove said, you're going to sit beside me. And as I was sitting beside Karl Rove and talking to him, Karl Rove, and who I still talk to today from time to time, he said, the president wants to meet with you. And I went back to this hallway, and there was, Senator Shelley Moore Capito and some of our elected officials and a lot of the, the head people from WVU. They were all standing out in the hallway. And they said, all of you stand here. And they said, now, I was a Lieutenant McCormick. You come back with us in this room. The president wants to meet with you in person. Out of all those people, he pulled me out of that crowd. He said, you go back there. And there was me, and there was one Secret Service agent, and there was the president, and a photographer came in to take pictures. And the president sat down with me, of course, gave me one of his presidential coins, which my wife carries around, by the way. She becomes the caretaker of all these things that I get. And sets me down in a chair and says, McCormick, tell me what's really going on over there. And I gave him an evaluation and a briefing like I would give to the commanders overseas. And you got to understand, I had been wounded, and I was starting to go through, I was still going in and out of the hospital. I was in and out of, different units and stuff, but I was on my feet. What I wanted to do, and what I told the president is, before we left, he says, well, was there anything I can do for you? I said, yes, sir. I said, I'd like to get back over there to continue what I'm doing, because I think the mission's important. And, of course, he shook my hand and we departed. And, I got a phone number that I could call and get a message directly to him. Okay. So it wasn't like the hotline to the White House. And that's just the way things went for the rest of that tenure. So that occurred in 2005. And, that was the President Bush trip. And we shared many letters after that and communications. And then after he left the White House, then we shared some emails. And, to this day, I still follow them and track everything that I can and offer them letters of compassion and kindness, especially whenever his father died. I got a letter about that as well. So, it was a good relationship. It was a great meeting. So there you go.
Secrets from the Inside with Captain James McCormick. Two things. Number one, tell me something personal about him. I had a story where I was this close to meeting him, James. You know that story, but tell me something personal about him that no one's heard before, but I've got mine where he was a jock and stuff, but share that a little bit. And then if you can possibly very quickly go through your resume, just 2 yards, and you can start with the 3 Purple Hearts. I figured 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, a Silver Star, and a partridge in a pear tree, right? But please tell me something personal and take all the time you need, James. Seriously, I love this stuff. I've heard awesome things about W, but go ahead.
Well, number one, he loved to he loved to ranch, So I will tell you that another thing that George Bush liked to do is he loved to barbecue. Now, I'm not talking about have somebody else cook it for him. I mean, he was quite the outdoor barbecuer, and could make some great mesquite and barbecue ribs that you'd die for. So he loved to go to the ranch down in Texas, and go out and split firewood and do all that. He tried to stay in shape all the time. I mean, obviously we're all getting older, but he was in very good physical shape. When I met him back in 2005 as well. So those are some things that I can tell you that he liked to do. And he just liked to have personal conversations with people. I mean, he'd sit down with you and drink a beer with you. That's just the way that he is. And he's still that way. Now he's a little closer to his faith now, as he gets older. And obviously, he has his opinions. He tries very hard to be a professional and civil person in all things that he does. I can tell you that, he ignores, a lot of the pushback about his role in the Iraq War and, some of the things that they like to hammer on him about. And that's from the left and the right. And I say to those people, you all were all pissed off after 9/11. You was looking for some scalps, and we got you some scalps, a bunch of damn scalps, okay? And I personally got quite a few of them myself. And I can tell you that, once those scalps were taken, and once we delivered, some pretty, heavy defeats on these guys, that's when you started to see people, I don't know, I'm kind of second guessing this. Look, armchair politicians, armchair soldiers, and armchair quarterbacks never win a damn thing. They never win a thing, but they sure stir up a lot of trouble. So I think that, My defense of George W. Bush comes from me having a more of an in-depth personal knowledge of not only the man, but some of the things that he was trying to tell the people about some of the capabilities that were laying around all over in Iraq. If we let that fall into the hands of Al-Qaeda, or given to them, as was the plan by none other than Saddam Hussein, then, this would have changed the whole thing. So imagine a couple of chemical, nerve gas artillery shells, blown up in the middle of New York City. Imagine that. Okay, we saw some of that. We saw some gases released in the subways before. But let's just talk about something really serious, military grade that could kill a lot of people. Well, that could have very well happened, and it could happen right now. I think that we've let our guard down the last 2 years, especially. We've probably got about 8 million people in this country, and probably about 6 million of them we don't know who the hell they are or where they come from, and that's a scary thing. There's a lot of alarms out there and red flags, and we're about ready to get another 9/11. That's my big concern that we have. As far as my resume goes, I served 22 years in the Army. I have received some the nation's third highest award for military valor, which is the Silver Star. I was actually recommended for the Medal of Honor, and but I received a request to downgrade that to the Distinguished Service Cross, and ended up getting the Silver Star. There was a lot of politics that went into that, as you know, Greg. Had nothing to do with the actions. It had more so to do with, just the unfortunate politics that go into these award systems. That's the reason why
The Biden administration shut down that process, and Donald Trump would executive order it to you tomorrow. That's my theory. Op-ed. You don't have to comment.
Well, and I won't comment on that, but I will say that I pissed off Joe Biden because I spoke out against his horrific retreat from Afghanistan, and I still speak out against it. 19 of my fellow service members got killed. 18 additional ones got horrifically wounded, and thousands are mentally scarred across this country. Suicide rates have went up dramatically since that event, and Joe Biden don't give a damn. Okay? Now, when I was the national commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, I openly made that statement on Fox News, and I was punished for that. Not just me punished, but the whole organization known as the Military Order of the Purple Heart was denied the right to testify before a Democrat-controlled Congress at the time, because they were pissed because your national commander actually had the balls to stand up and tell the president and his administration that you're wrong and that you need to make this right. At the time that we told him that, he could have fixed that. He could have prevented a full all-out retreat. We should have maintained the airfield. We should have maintained control, and we darn sure should have took all that equipment out there with us instead of leaving it there. So, the Palestinians have benefited from that greatly. My understanding is some of that U.S. equipment has ended up with Hamas and some of these other groups. Hey, look, Joe Biden, he owns that. The Department of Defense owns that. They'll never hang a Medal of Honor around a guy's neck who will tell him the damn truth. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Now, the last one that told him the truth on things, he had received his Medal of Honor, and I'm trying to remember his name, but he got it, daggone it, I have to think about it. Anyways, his name's right on the tip of my tongue, and I have to think about it. But during the bonus march of World War I, he spoke out and said, the government owes you this bonus. And it was during the Depression, and the World War I veterans went to ask for their bonus, went and protested civilly. And then the military, basically run them over and killed a bunch of those guys, wounded a bunch of them. These are veterans of our country that were just simply asking for what was owed to them. It's a shame that those things happen. But when you have people with true character and decency and honor and integrity, I promise you they're going to find a way to either kill you or silence you. And a lot of times it's just easier just to ignore you and just label you as a nut. Look what they're doing to President Trump right now. Okay? Let's look what they're doing to Donald J. Trump. What are they doing? They're trying everything in the power. Let's get him on something. My God, jaywalking, anything. Shit, let's keep him out of this race because they're terrified of what he's going to do. Not because it's going to be some dictatorship, but because he's going to return the America to the American people, to the people that is of the people and by the people and for the people, and not for this select group of these lily-livered politicians that have never had to get up and really fight for anything in their life. And, that's an unpopular thing to say. I'm surprised somebody hasn't shot me for it already. But if that happens, then you probably know where it came from. It's just the reality of it, guys. I refuse to live in fear and stand in darkness and be a little mouse in the corner. I won't do it. I have people that come out. I had this husband and wife mad at me because I exposed this guy for being a liar, lied, said he had 2 Purple Hearts. And him and his wife have been after me since 2018, and they can't let it go. And, they just keep showing up, saying negative things, nasty things, because they can't handle the truth. The truth is if you would just shut up and quit telling that lie, I'd leave you alone. The same thing with President Biden. The truth is if you just straighten your ass up and act like an American, then I wouldn't tell people that you're wrong. I would say, give him a chance. But right now, we can't give you a chance. We need to vote you out because you're not doing the job. And that whole cabinet that you brought in there, based on, social status, let's hire this person because they're gay. Let's hire this person because they're black. Let's hire this person because they're Muslim. Let's hire this person because they're anything except they're qualified. And, here's the deal. You hire people based on qualifications. Everything else doesn't matter. Because when it really all falls apart, let me tell you, the fact whether they're married to a man or a woman, or whether they're dressing in a dress or dressing in a 3-piece suit, it don't matter. The only thing that matters is if they have the ability to function and do the job. The Department of Transportation has failed miserably. Go to Palestine, Ohio, and take a look. Right there is the full effect of doing what Joe Biden has done. And they still got a problem there. Go to the VA. The VA hospitals should be able to be duplicated. The one, the hospital that I went to in Huntington, I should be able to go to California and get the same level of care no matter where I go. But I know that my care depends on the location more so than anything. Is it a blue state or is it a red state? And it shouldn't be that way. So, anyways, you probably got a little bit more than you wanted to get, but there you go.
Captain, I'm spellbound once again today. You can never speak too much because every word, there's not a wasted word. Val once said episodes ago that when you listen to this show, you get smarter. And I'm feeling smarter already, and even, of course, mandatorily more emotional just listening to your stories. This is all about leadership. This is all about manhood. And this is all about fatherhood. Okay, that's the bottom line. Elephant in the room, fatherhood, fatherless households. Please continue with your resume a little bit.
Yeah.
And including your education.
Sure.
I mean, it's stunning to me. So go ahead, try and do it's. And don't do checklist points. You expand all you want, just like you have.
Well,
I'm thoroughly entertained by this, Captain.
Well,
and you go ahead.
I'm not a, I wasn't an especially good student in high school. I was constantly distracted by, I like to be outside a lot, and I liked, I liked sports and I liked hobbies and different things. I love to hunt all the time, and but I found out that, hey, you got to make at least a C average to be able to play football and to wrestle and to do all these things I like to do. So I said, well, let me just get through this school thing. And school actually bored me. I don't think it challenged me. And I found that out later in life, because when I went to take the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, you know, I scored extremely high. I'm just going to just tell you, I had a 127 general technical score. I think the highest you can get is a 132. So I could do anything I wanted in the military. All of my line scores were rocking at over 110. And the recruiter asked me, "What kind of student were you?" I said, "I was a BC student. You know, I made the B honor roll once. I felt pretty good about that, but mainly I made B's and C's. You know, sometimes I didn't make, you know, but it wasn't because I didn't know the work. It was because I just didn't like doing it. So when I got out and I went in the Army, I started taking college classes, you know, on base, and I excelled. I excelled in science and history and social studies and, you know, human anatomy, physiology. You know, look, this whole debate about transgenderism and all this other stuff, and you know whether this person is a man or a woman. Look, I can figure that out real quick based on bone structure. You know, because when you find skeletons, you don't identify them as what they wanted to be identified by. It's either a man or a woman. It's just basically that's the way it is. So if you do a little study of bones, let's just go into the bones. You know. Bone structure and the way a person's lying down, you can tell. It's just the way it is. And some people have more manly, you know, features, and some people have more feminine features, but there's no hiding what you are, period. That's just the way it is. And it has more to do with that than anything else. So I did get a degree, got my first bachelor's degree back in 1998. Then I received a master's degree in environmental science. And then I went on to study again because I wanted to get another bachelor's degree in history. So I got a bachelor's degree in liberal arts with history um, uh, as well. Then I started to study the ministry, and I went to school at Victory Bible College. I received a doctorate of Christian counseling and a doctor of divinity, which comes with the Christian counseling. Let me explain that. Doctor of divinity. A lot of people get those. Those are honorary degrees. But doctor of Christian counseling is not. So I took a complete series on how to do proper Christian counseling, and I utilized that for quite a while. And, you know, and I accelerated in these degree programs. You know, I would go through, you know, I would, you know, try to finish class as quick as possible, and would massively, you know, triple up and double up. And here's the other thing that I was doing by doing that is I was tackling this PTSD thing. Because as I was keeping my mind occupied, studying, doing things, I didn't think about the post-traumatic stress. So I stayed busy. And during that same time, you know, we started a ministry back in 2010 called Raising Cane Farms. We started to help veterans with agriculture, farming. I got very deeply involved in that, wrote the legislation for the state of West Virginia called the Veterans and Warriors to Agriculture Program. I was one of the first 10 veterans in the nation that actually identified as a veteran farmer. And I was growing bamboo and sorghum and, you know, and trying to find a new crop, a new market, a new niche. I was constantly looking for something to keep my mind occupied. I was looking at how to use this bamboo from everything from, you know, pressing it into, you know, replacement parts for cars. You know, there's so many bumpers that get cracked, and you know they're all made out of fiberglass or plastic or whatnot. But you know, bamboo makes an excellent property that you can press that into the same material. And the difference is that when you naturally, we have a lot of wrecks in America, but when you hit that bumper with that bamboo, you know, and it shatters, you don't have the pollution issue. You don't have the need to, the cleanup on that is not nearly as bad, and you can compost that. So instead of, let's just think of this, instead of going in and seeing junkyards full of all of these parts that sometimes they reuse them, sometimes they don't, we could turn those parts into compost. So yeah, it sounds a little bit crazy, but it was working for me, and also learned a lot. Took a class and studied in phytoremediation, which is the use of plants to remove toxicity in the soils, and actually became a scientific research fellow for the University of Utah. And I still am, and I have been since 2016. And so I write some papers on the benefits of agriculture and veterans, and the reductions of suicide, and also the benefits of phytoremediation and how we can, properly reclaim post-mine properties in order to put them into more immediate use and operations. Prior to that, 2012, I started working I worked for 2 years working with veterans, and I didn't realize that I'd made such an impact. And probably, I was told at least a dozen people had put me in for an award called the Congressional Medal of Honor Society Citizen Service Before Self Award. Now, they award 3 of these medals each year to American citizens who either do something exceptionally courageous, or they have one that does a series of acts that help people. So some recipients of this were doctors that were giving free free dental care or eye care or whatever. You check the box to thousands of kids, and I ended up working with well over 1,000 veterans over the course of that time period, helping them get involved in agriculture and growing that Department of Agriculture program, that Vets to Agriculture program, that in turn ended up training thousands of more. And I was called to Washington, D.C. I was awarded the Citizen Service Before Self Award, the medal. My wife and my children were there. We got to meet Tiger Woods while we were there in the Arlington National Cemetery. And then, of course, my personal friend, Herschel Woody Williams, Medal of Honor recipient, last living one from World War II that recently passed. He is the one that actually hung that medal around my neck. And when he gave me that medal, he explained to me that now is when the work begins. And he was right, because at that point, when you're recognized for doing something good, no matter what it is, you're going to have 2 groups of people. You're going to have the group of people that really support you and love you and like what you're doing, and then you're going to have the haters. And literally, it seemed like any time that I received an accolade or an award, like Woody and the Medal of Honor recipients will tell you, that not everybody's going to be happy for you. There are going to be people that are going to challenge you, because, oh, you think you're better because you got this award. No, I don't think that I'm better at all. I think, as a matter of fact, this calls me to do even more. So I've increased some of the things that I do. Working through that, like I said, started up the Vets to Ag program, ran that till 2019 when I resigned, and then I started my role as national commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart. So I served a year as the year as the senior vice commander, and a year as the national commander. God put me in there the same month as national commander, the same month as Biden pulled that terrible withdrawal. The same month. And I believe that was, God did that by design, because no other national commander wanted to stand up and speak out on that. But because I did, I was able to also, reach out to a guy named Joe Shirelli. And Joe Shirelli was with AmVets, and he's still out there. He's from New York. He's a great guy, conservative guy. And him and I went on Fox News, and we laid it out. Here's the deal. You're wrong. No, it wasn't that bad. We didn't scold him, but because of that, we were punished for that. So, there is, no good deed goes unpunished, folks. Let me tell you
You
that.
look, you look, James, you look Joe Biden in the eye, face to
Yeah.
face. Take a minute. Remember where you are.
Yeah.
Take a minute and tell me, looking him in the eye, and how recent it was,
Yeah.
what your take was, and what our audience will want to hear. Secrets from the Inside.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, I did get the invitation to the White House on November, for Veterans Day. And I did get a chance to walk up and speak with Joe Biden. He wanted to get his picture made with me, and I did not want my picture made at the time. I said, I'd rather speak to you about something, and then we can get a picture made. And in that conversation, I said, we are already starting to see an increase in suicides. We need, and I 100%, as many others believe, that it was because of the retreat from Afghanistan. And he just kind of started to look away, and one of his handlers came over and started to pull him away. And I said, I would really like to have a conversation with you about some ideas. Not that I want to just shatter your image. I want to tell you how to fix this thing because, he's the president, okay? And it's like he's making calls, and I can either be a jerk and just stand up here and cuss and raise all this hell, or I can give you thoughts and ideas and try my best to help fix this. And obviously, it went nowhere. And he laid one of his coins in my hand, and I do have that coin from Joe Biden. I have several presidential coins, by the way. I've met more than one president, but the conversation could have been better. All this was a horse and pony show to show Joe Biden inviting all these old, wore out veterans, and some of them were out there, boy, they was sucking it up, the best they could get in there. We got professional politicians in the Veterans Corps, and they live around Washington, D.C., and that's what they do. They go around, and this is what they've learned to do. They've learned to be sycophants. And I challenge them, every time I see them, what are you really doing? Are you in here really advocating for veterans' issues, or are you in here cutting deals? Because if you're in here cutting deals, I don't need you. I need somebody that's going to really stand up and say, this is what we need. I can tell you, I was just in Washington, D.C. not very long ago. Went to meet John Tester, went to meet several key leaders, okay, Republicans and Democrats. And the message was the same. Not this flaunting and talking and kissing your hind end. No, it's like you're here to help us. Our country's in a hell of a shape right now. We've got problems. We don't just have veterans problems, buddy. We got economic problems. We got energy problems. We got border problems. And I'm here as a constituent, a citizen, but more so the leader of an organization to let you know that my people are not happy. This is going to be a bad Christmas for a lot of people, man. I'm going to just tell everybody right now, it's not going to be the greatest Christmas. But you know what, though? Christmas is about Jesus Christ, the birth of Jesus Christ. We need to get back to that. And then you won't be worried about the fact that you don't have $10,000 this year extra to spend on Christmas, because you don't. None of us do. I don't. For the first time in many years, my wife couldn't go Black Friday shopping. She liked to go do that stuff. People are crazy. They love that thing. I don't love it, but she did. But she can't go because we got to pay bills, lots of bills. I work for organizations and do contract work, and they're almost 3 months behind in paying me because they don't have the money. And that's just the way that it's going.
James.
Yeah.
I really had to sit my wife down the other day. I was Greg and Deborah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to sit down and say, it's real simple math. It's simple math. Between Trump economy and Joe Biden economy today, we live on $1,200 less than we did. and it's simple math. And whatever the pay grade or whatever we talked about this in the pre-show, people are getting squeezed. I'm getting squeezed. You're getting squeezed. Funny is, off the record before the show, I said to Val, I'm probably going to have to lay off my IT kids, right? For the whole, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
these
Merry
are
Christmas.
conversations
Yeah.
we didn't have these conversations under Trump, James.
No.
Whenever any of the smarty pants folks tell me how life is going to be just dangerous under Donald Trump and blah, 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 blah. And I say, I just want my $1.75 a gallon gas back, guys.
Yeah.
Can you give me my Trump gas back? Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And,
exactly.
How is your voice? I'm not. I want you to continue a bit. How's your voice and how's your time here, James? That's huge. We're obviously there's no such thing. We could be a dance-a-thon. Remember 1950s?
Yeah.
Right. You go 36 straight hours, and we'd say, "Hey, Val, we'll turn it over to you. Take the next half hour, right, of mic time." Well, Greg and James go have a cold one after talking for 2 hours. This is long form radio. This is 3-hour shows that we used to listen to overnight. Back to you on that, because is your voice okay?
Yeah,
if it is, I'm gonna ask you.
It's better. I went through this. So I had a very bad sinus infection. That's what it was. And I mean,
there's only two things. It's so tough. There's only two things I want you to chat about because you're on an amazing roll. One, nobody knows what you went through in the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is no bullshit here. Okay. You talk about that a little bit as much, and with you, James, it's always free license. You want to talk 1 minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes. I want to talk about that. And then, okay, this is if your voice handle. I'm the guy with the hoarse voice. I've been working since 4:30 this morning. I slept in today and only started at 4:30.
I know. I got your messages, man. You got
I know. My IT kid, he's like, 18 and a half years old. I send him texts at like 5:30 in the morning. What 18-year-old, 17-year-olds awake at 5 in the morning. But the other thing I want to touch on, this is if you're okay with it.
Sure.
And I'd like this to be, it's not a Reader's Digest, but you shared the most stunning story that I ever heard on live radio in my life. And I'm an old bastard at 60, almost 65, right? So it was a story. I'm just going to tell you to folks out there, buckle up. It's a story of two Al-Qaeda guys surrendering to you. Something happened to the other 20 guys and a UFO involved. And I need you to take as long as you want, if you want. This is the most stunning thing I ever heard, because I said, I never heard a possible solution to the hatred in the world, especially from jihadists.
Yeah. Well,
I've never seen any solution, but you presented one that might be actually a documented fact.
Yeah. Wow.
So here we go. I just turn it over to you, Captain. You just go for it. You're up on the next dance-a-thon. Take the next 22 minutes, cowboy. Yeah. There you go.
Well, I will just tell you that first. Let me go back to the in and out of the VA hospitals, and my wife traveled with me to Fort Knox, and in and out of Ireland Army Hospital, putting up with all that bullshit with the warrior transition teams. And, it was a tough time in the military. I wasn't looking forward to getting out. I didn't want to get out. As a matter of fact, if they would call me back, I'd go back today, and go back overseas. And even though I'm getting older and I can't move like I used to, I figure my body would either adjust or I'd die, and look, I'm okay. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid to die. Now, some people are terrified of dying, and I think that's mainly because they don't have the ultimate belief that when you die, your soul will either ascend to heaven or go to hell. And I know mine will go to heaven. Why? Because I'm saved by the blood of Jesus Christ. And the best thing that could happen to these Islamic extremists is for them to find some of that love in their heart, and they'd stop doing all this stuff. There's no way that they can justify, even in their own religion, what they're doing is right. And I think that was the message that was relayed to these two Al-Qaeda operatives who were part of this major ambush, that was waiting on us down around southern Iraq. And then they ended up coming running out, surrendering, screaming about, in Arabic about some aliens that had, had sucked their friends up in like a tornado. I mean, it's the darndest thing. I mean, we went to the site. We looked. We found lots of weapons. I had a garbage bag, okay, and I had a duffel bag. A garbage bag. It was full of ammunition. Duffel bags. It was full of AK-47s, RPGs. Ask anybody how many daggone weapons that I picked up in that. There were just 40, 50 different weapons, okay? And unbelievable explosives that were lined up waiting on us. And all of a sudden, these guys come running out and they're surrendering. And it's like, where is everybody at? What happened? What happened? So they're screaming and they're going crazy, and our interpreter's going, they're screaming something about aliens. Are they running from somebody? And then when we got them, we found out that they were hardcore guys, man. I mean, these were killers. These were kid killers, man. These were people that would murder you, no problem. And as we got into the discussion and the interrogation piece of this, what they explained had happened is that that they were approached by these two orbs, and they were like silver in color and gray in color, and that they had just basically came in and all of a sudden it was like a windstorm, and it was like a tornado had sucked up. They were just totally sucked up in this tornado. They just disappeared, And these guys were hiding in and around a place called the Ziggurat in southern Iraq. And they said that this thing came down and spoke to them and said that they had to give up. They had to stop what they're doing because they're not going to go to paradise. You see, these guys weren't afraid to die. They were not afraid to die. But they were afraid to die and go to hell. Now, like it or not, most people that study Islam believe in they call it paradise, we call it heaven. But they believed in their beliefs, and they've had this pounded in their head since they were kids, that if you kill the infidel, you automatically go to heaven. Well, they were let known really quickly that that's not the case. You are fighting against people that are doing good things. And if you do this and you're killed in it and they kill you in this, you're not going to paradise. And none of your friends have been to paradise either. So that's what really scared them into surrendering. So I say that to you all because it's true. It really happened. I witnessed it. Several other people witnessed it. But what was remarkable about that thing was that from that point forward, I had been wounded 3 times at that point, okay, in this deployment. But after that, I had bullets pass through my pants leg. I had bullets ricochet off the top of my helmet. I had bullets go by my ear. And I had soldiers experience the same thing that were all part of that one group. We never got a scratch after that. So you just think about that. When I hear people talk about aliens and UFOs, well, okay, I think more on the case of maybe these are angels. Maybe if you read the Bible tells you that we are visited by angels unawares all the time. When you entertain a stranger, you may entertain an angel unaware. So I really saw, God's hand of intervention in all of this, because that's the only reason why I can explain why I'm alive today. Because I did not back down. I did not hide behind. I didn't. Hell, if I'm hiding behind something, guys, I can't see to shoot. I can't see to give commands. I have to have my head up looking around. and God protected me. That's just the facts. It's the truth. Losing my voice though, buddy. I'm about done here.
James, yeah, and parachute out anytime you want. This has been incredible. Seriously. If Val, I just gonna turn it to Val here a little bit. She's just been incredible. But anytime you want to parachute out, that's great. But if you want, before you sign off, please tell people about where they can find you and continue mission a little bit if you got that left.
Sure.
And then we'll retool our dance floor here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Set up
I
my governor's campaign for Alberta.
Oh, dude,
ready?
Can you imagine? It's too bad I laid off my IT kids. This might have been a good show.
We don't need it. We don't need it.
We'll
I'll just jump in the truck and drive up there. I've got a passport. I can cross the border.
I know you will. By the way, we have a date. We have a date out here. It's going to be a dig, and it's going to be a visit with the sheriff, and blah blah blah. Okay, anyhow, that's still on. But to tell people about yourself, plug yourself here.
Sure.
I'll let Val, and I really, before you leave, I would love Val. I can't believe it, Val. I'm just been listening, and you've just been listening to this amazing stuff. And then Val, I'll turn it over to Val, literally for her a quote, too bad intro, but extra with you. She's deeply passionate about this stuff, but talk a little bit about yourself again, James,
Sure.
and then turn it back to Val here for extra, at least there. And there you go.
So we have a radio show every Friday night. Runs from 10 to midnight. That is on Eastern Standard Time or 7 to 9 Pacific Time. It's called Continue Mission. It's on the Brain Injury Radio Network. So you go to Brain Injury Radio Network, type in Continue Mission, and you can listen to all of us. And sometimes we have Val and Greg on there as well. And it's a great show. We have a great time. We talk about some wonderful things. Father Michael Pacella is a godsend. Richard Kilblain is a historian. Who definitely knows this stuff as well. It's a great place to go. But I like to communicate on professional links. Of course, I'm on X, Twitter X, James McCormick. It's a picture of me parachuting. That is me last year. I still do those things. I believe that you never get too old for that. LinkedIn is, I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you just look up James McCormick, and I'll pull that up to make sure that you have that right connection there. I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. It's a professional network, and I enjoy it. So it's just James McCormick, and it's DD, for Doctor of Divinity, and CSP, Certified Safety Professional. I've got about 14,000 followers on there. So come on there and check me out. I'm also on Facebook. And you can come look me up on Facebook as well. I'm on there, and we run a few other sites as well. So just reach out and we'll chat. You can also reach me at WV Purple Heart 1863. That's WV Purple Heart 1863 at gmail.com. And be looking forward to answering any of your questions. I'm actually going to speak on that experience in Iraq in June. I've been asked to come and be the keynote speaker for a conference, and it's a conference with people both of faith and science conference. So I'll be there for that. That's it.
James, you touched over just behind the scenes of your life, and I wanted to bring it back to you just kind of glanced over it, but you've spoke to presidents, you've met with key people, and yet you take the time and you invest in what's right in front of you. And I'm talking in particular to that young man that you're taking 24 hours of your time. We can't put a price tag on time, and you're working with him, you're mentoring him. You never know who listens to this show. I just wonder if you have a word for him, a message for him, because you're not so important that you don't come back to that what's right in front of you, from the Homefront to
investing in mentoring in these kids. I recently watched videos of you just giving a word of encouragement to vets, especially on suicide. You stop
Mhm.
what you're doing and you hear from God and you act. So touch on that if you can.
Sure. Sure. I would like to say that everybody has value. So my value is not any more than yours, no matter how many medals, accolades, degrees, money, whatever. That's not what makes a person. A person is made of flesh and bone and soul, living soul. And we have to take the time to invest in those living souls. This young man and many like him are desperate for leadership. They're desperate for people that will teach them the right thing. And, I can either stand back and let people teach them a wrong thing. They're walking all up and down the streets all the time. You see them peddling dope, riding up down the road, grown men on a bicycle with a backpack on, stealing catalytic converters. And all of these things, we can either watch these kids become that and then sit around as old people and gripe about it, or you get off your butt and you dedicate some time. How much sleep do you need? Okay? You don't need 12 hours of sleep every day, folks. I'm telling you. I function very well between 6 and 8 hours of sleep every day. Physically, it's okay. You need some time to decompress your brain. There's 24 hours in a day. You take 7 hours to sleep, okay? You can take an hour to decompress your brain. You have all that additional time to dedicate, number one, to God, country, family, and then to help your fellow human, okay? Your fellow man, woman, child, because they need it. And if I take 5 minutes or an hour or 3 hours or whatever of my time to dedicate it to that person, how valuable is that to that person? It could be life-changing. That young man could leave here and become one of two things. He could become one of the greatest examples and live up to his full expectations, or he can become a loser, riding up and down the street on a bicycle with a backpack, stealing and painting graffiti all over things. And I would prefer him to become a doctor, a lawyer, a construction worker, an electrician. He wants to be an electrician. I encourage that. I want him to become an electrician, a good electrician, because we need more of them. But more importantly, I want him to know that he has value, that he's more than what he did to our building. And that one day he will ultimately, and I believe he does now, feel sincerely bad about what he done. And maybe when he gets older, who knows, maybe one of my great grandkids will do that to his building and he'll remember what I did. You just never know the impact that you have on somebody. You can either impact them to be a Winston Churchill, or you can impact them to be an Adolf Hitler. And I'm telling you, that is real. That is very real. And you got to follow your heart and do the right thing. It's just the way it is. If you don't, then what are you even doing here? That gives you purpose. I watched this whole thing on longevity. People, number one, there's all these things you hear about: take this, take that, do exercise, lose weight, all these other things, all very important. But ultimately, the number one thing that people need in their life to continue living is purpose. You have to have a reason to wake up every day. And I can tell you that every single one of you that are out there listening today, you have a purpose. There's somebody out there that needs you. Get up, put your pants on, put your shoes on, brush your teeth, comb your hair, and get out and do it. Stop sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Let's go. We got work to do. And that's how I greet my day every day. For some days I get up, I'm sore, I'm hurting, I'm mentally exhausted, I'm sick, whatever, emotionally exhausted because you put up with all this BS, that's going on around this country, and people personally attacking you, for whatever reason. And then I have a friend that comes in yesterday, a great man of faith comes in yesterday and tells me about a certain thing that happened in his life when he was trying to start up a ministry in a town. And, there was a church in there that was close to where he was at. Didn't want him to start a church because they was afraid he was going to take some of their parishioners. Instead of accepting the fact that there's thousands of people in that town that don't go to church. I'm just worried about my own little control. And they did everything they could, and they eventually run him out. And he went up to another town, and he took that blessing to another town. He walked in here the other day, and he says, he got involved in gardening. He said, he said, my life brings me back to James McCormick, and we've known each other since probably 2008. Okay. And he says, and I noticed that my life just keeps bringing me back to you. We always come back. He said, I went through this hard time. I left, went to California. He said, then I came back. He came back, and I talked to him about farming and agriculture. He's one of the best farmers over on that side of the river. And he said, you like carrots? You like this? You like kale? Absolutely. Goes back to his house, comes back probably 35 minutes later, 3 big bags of vegetables. It's going to take me a week to eat all those vegetables, but I'm going to eat and eat healthy. Okay. But these are the things that happens, and it's like, and he has a church over in Pomeroy, and he's like, and he said, like, I said, I want to come sit in your church. He said, no, I want you to come preach at the church. I want you to come preach a message at the church. I said, I can listen or I can talk. It doesn't matter. Because, we all have to be fed. So, but anyways, yes.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep preaching. This is what people want. This is the real meat and potatoes. These fake pop-up, show up at church, check in there, get your little gold star because you came to church today.
Yeah.
It's wearing thin. People want the real meal deal. So keep going.
Sure. Yeah. Look, if you're really going to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, you have to give time to kids like the kid that painted our building. Okay. You just got to. What did Jesus do whenever they brought the adulteress to him, and they were going to stone her? And he said, let him who hath no sin cast the first stone. That's the first thing I thought about when I saw that boy and his grandmother when she brought him in here, and was worried that I'm going to be some, evil man, that's going to try to put her grandson in jail and ruin his life. I thought, let him who hath no sin cast the first stone. That went through my head. First thing. How can I cast a stone at this boy when I've done the same kind of things? And worse. I just didn't get caught all the time. They didn't have cameras back then. Thank God. And cell phones, to capture all these things. But I say this to you all because the hypocrisy of some people is what's driving your church members away. So if you're, if you're looking to get people to come to church, and you're constantly hammering on people, look, people know your history, okay? And every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Don't ever forget that. And it's never too late, even for those Al-Qaeda insurgents. It's never too late for them to accept Jesus Christ, ask for forgiveness, and walk away from that evil lifestyle. Same thing with all the Palestinians, all the radical Islamics that are out there. I don't think that all Muslim people are bad. I just think that fundamentally that their faith is flawed. Their faith is flawed if they believe that it's okay to destroy and kill and lie. If they believe that, then their faith is flawed. And I think that even their own Bible will tell them that. if they actually read every chapter and every verse. But we have Christians that do the same thing. They cherry pick, right? They cherry pick something that fits their, their flavor of the day, what they want to slam somebody or make fun of somebody for. Let me just get this one out there. Thou shalt not, committeth adultery. Well, it says there's a lot of things it says you shouldn't do either. Have no other gods before me. So let's think about that. Do you put something before God? Do you put money, fame, your own little personal reputation? Are you worried about what some little weasel's saying on Facebook about you more so than what God thinks about you? Those are the things that should be moving around in churches. And we need to get preachers out there that are less worried about, their lifestyle, how much money they got. And there's a lot of them out there. Some of them give us a bad name. They really do. And they need to fix themselves. They need to correct themselves. They need to get themselves right. I'm not saying that they can't have wealth. I'm not saying that they can't have a home and decency. But what I am saying is that maybe, just maybe, you're not tithing enough. If you have billions of dollars in assets, and are you really tithing? Because I can tell you what $1 billion could do. I can tell you what $1 million could do for a little town in McDowell County, West Virginia. We could do a lot with that. We could help a lot of people. We could build a church. Heck, we could build an education center to try to help educate them and elevate them out of poverty. Not just give them something, not some form of socialism, but create skills and jobs. Those are all good, godly things to do, folks. And you need to find your niche, and you need to do it, and you need to stop making excuses for not doing it. And I'm just about done with my voice, folks. Sorry.
Well, that was so encouraging. Find your tribe, and I'm going to put that contact info in this tweet. So those of you that are listening and want to know more about what James is talking about, this real relationship with Jesus Christ, then you can, if he preaches, I'm going to get the link. We're going to get it up on YouTube, and we're going to spread it far and wide. But Captain James, if your voice is almost gone, you just sign off whenever you need.
And James, we'll definitely do a follow-up to this amazing marathon discussion. We're going to do probably the first, it's called Ad Hoc, Greg Ad Hoc Radio Show.
All right.
Okay, where I'm thinking at least an hour. It's amazing. Val would agree with this. I got 500 questions. And also some specific questions about your war days. Just parachute out. I thank you deeply as ever. I thank you deeply from my heart. I salute to Father Mike, to obviously Rich, to your 50,000 guys now, your Purple Hearts. I salute your 200,000 live listeners. I salute all of the organizations that you follow. You are what is called leadership. You are the poster child for manhood, and you're the poster child for fatherhood. And what's missing in today's world, that's kind of going to be the follow up. Because I chatted about this in the pre-show with Val. I've just determined that my entire life mission of my brand is fatherhood. And then we answer the fatherhood questions, the leadership questions, and the manhood questions. We fix everything, Captain. So
there you go.
Cheers to you. Salutes.
Take
Val,
care,
say
guys.
Goodbye to Captain, and I'll see you next time. Okay. Ad Hoc. We'll be talking about this in the next, maybe over the weekend or something, James. So I know you'll find time in between the museum and babysitting your granddaughter and taking care of Cookie the puppy and the whole shebang. Okay. But God love you.
All right. Greg.
Where do we start? let's talk behind James's back.
Well, I want to touch on.
Go ahead, touch on it. Take your
That's
time.
what Alberta needs. That was a vision into just listening to James. I was taking all of who he is, what he stands for, his experience, and just pushing that into Alberta. That's the quality of what we are in the works of making happen, because there are so many Albertans who are cheering behind the scenes right now. And yes, they're scared, but when they hear leadership quality like that, a politician with a vision, like, you have no idea how dry it is in Alberta. We don't have politicians that sound like him. So this is all new. And I know there's all these shirts and bumper stickers made for Danielle Smith, Governor USA, but if I was her handlers or her donors, I would be very nervous. It's not just you got it in the bag.
And
Whoa.
Val, in the end, it's just what's right for the people.
Yep.
For the people. And I'm talking the 4.5 million people in Alberta, of which about 1 million or less affect elections. But it's still about the people. Val Olson, you talk to the people directly. Greg Meakin speaks directly to the people. And we learned today that Captain James McCormick speaks to the people. And in the end, no matter what, that's what Secrets from the Inside's all about. That's what long-form radio is all about. That's what overnight radio is all about. Again, the old Art Bells of the world and the folks that I would listen to a little transistor radio with an earpiece. This is what it's all about. Because if someone can't, I'm stunned. I mean, we're going to be getting into major time here. But it will likely not be listened to by any young people because they can't go more than 22 seconds, right? With attention span. But what's contained herein to what's going to be a 3-hour show, what's contained herein is gold, is answers. Remember, the cool thing about all our discussions and my brand and the way I go about life, the way James and you go about life, I'm looking for solutions. None of this bitching and moaning. You know how impatient I get with complaining, Val. It's okay. What do we do?
Yeah.
What's our solution? Okay, boo. What do we do tomorrow morning? And that's what James is all about. He listed it today above and beyond. And honestly, is from a personal standpoint, me to you, Val, I'm sitting saying, I don't know how we can top this. I've done a lot of radio in my life, Val Olson Radio. Who can give you, remember I've told you this, on your platform, I selected it because who could go do with any kind of heavy-handed sponsors, advertisers, or whatever, or garbage platforms, who can go from a 59-minute scheduled show to 3 hours and whatever, and a dance-a-thon with the most incredible information. I mean, I learned new stuff today, Val, and that's what it's all about. It's Secrets from the Inside. But in this case, think about this for a second. I'm sorry, am I sounding a little hoarse myself?
You're still coming through. You're coming through all right.
Okay, man. Because we're just sitting back now, right? You've been just awesome sitting back. I've been sitting back because I'm listening to our own product, right?
And I'm listening to you. So
I know, and I'm listening.
Take your time.
You're so well trained. Oh, you're so well media trained, but I'm sitting back. I'm saying, okay, take a step back, everybody, right? And including me. Take a step back, okay, of what you heard today. Again, I get this. Well, I'm kind of a truth teller. I just get right down to it, right? What is it in one word or one line, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting saying, okay, let me get this straight. Okay. We listened to a gentleman who really shared, honestly, for the first time, bell to bell, as they say in the car business, bell to bell, really the inside secrets of success and joy in anyone's life. like that. Follow what James says. You'll have a happy life. Be a leader like James. You'll have a happy life. Okay, but either it's just really, really basic. But I'm sitting, okay. We just have this is called an exclusive, Val. Have you ever heard of an exclusive in the news industry?
Yeah, it's like breaking news, and
what
only
a
coming
cut
out on one channel.
Oh, dude, what a cut and paste word, breaking news. No, it's the 8th time I've heard that story today. It's not breaking anymore, everybody, including everybody, the Foxes and everything. You ain't breaking news. I'll tell you, breaking news is 2 Iraqis surrendering to a UFO. Okay, seriously.
That is, yeah. We never heard about it.
Hello? And how the only answer to them giving up the hate. Just say it as hate. Okay. We heard from a gentleman who has basically volunteered to run. I don't think if you should run. I think we should appoint him governor. He just said it today. A governor of the brand new state of Alberta, the 51st state. And he said that. You asked him what would he do as governor, and he told you. Let's think about this. It's like interviewing Sheriff Lamb. I ain't scared. Okay, so we got a guy who is, and I've officially nominated him. You seconded the nomination, for him to be the governor of the 51st state of the United States, Alberta, take the baton from guess who? Our dear friend L. Gordon Kessler, Gordy, who has been serving, quietly volunteering, part down in Arizona, part up in Montana when he's not doing rodeos. I don't know if he owns a golf cart down here in Arizona, but he should. But Gordy Kessler will be happy to pass the baton because Gordon Kessler has been the honorary first governor, right? This is timestamp long time ago, Val.
He's a patriot and an Albertan hero and a former member of the legislature of Alberta, and he's got skin in the game, and I can't wait.
He was the first documented Alberta separatist, basically AB 51 person in this century. There was another one guy way back. I think it's even before my time, like the 1800s, Val. Anyhow, fact checking. Gordon Kessler was in the legislature. How cool to chit chat with him and salute him, my favorite old oil spy. If you ever want just the most entertaining thing in the world is read Gordon's 4 novels. Unbelievable. Alberta oil spy, right? Oil industry spy, Val. He's not shy about it. Gordy Kessler's not shy about anything. In the early 80s, he was a legend in Alberta. He was the Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan kind of dude, and he was the only true vocal Alberta separatist. And you'll do your homework on that. And he took an ass kicking for that. We know that. Timestamped previous programs. Do your own homework, right, Val?
Yeah, you'll find the clip. You can go to gregmeakin.com. Actually, that was a real secret he dropped on that show, talking about the communist infiltration in the Alberta government. The
RCMP spied on him. I'll say it. Hello? Yeah. Dueling telescopes. Hello? Come on, man. Again, it's published. I'm taking a minute decompressing from that incredible Captain James interview. But as we move forward, we have this guy who also Captain McCormick. So he's totally open to being governor of Alberta. He's literally, whether people know it or not, he's launching a kind of national mentorship movement. We heard him talk about that. Just like the sheriff's redirection program, Captain McCormick wants to change something, but we'll do something nationally with that. You know what I mean? That's what he says. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. Yeah. Well, how do we do it? We'll do it just like the way he described on the show today. I say tonight. That feels like overnight radio to Mr. Midnight. Oh, my God. Deborah couldn't believe we're still on the air, Val.
This is marathon.
Do you remember the marathon? You're too young. Do you remember the dance-a-thons? It was the 1950s where they do it like for 4 straight days, dancing for charity and ballroom dancing. And they do shifts, right? You take over for me, you take over for me. The musicians take over for each other. But it was like the Jerry Lewis telethons, but you do it for charity. I honestly think there's something here, but we'll talk about that another time.
Well, it is. We are broadcasting to Alberta. I'm telling you, Greg, I can't keep up with the AB51 group. Like they are like on fire. Like I don't know if you've heard my phone just continually. They boots on the ground.
Seriously.
Yeah, there's stuff going on right now.
The guys in the groups, or who are you talking up there? You know me, I'm a closed-minded Arizonan. What's happening, Val? You know this. I say, hey, let's save it for a quiet call or whatever. Whenever I have like 5 hours to listen to what's, catch me up.
I'm not gonna use names because obviously there's a lot going on. But no, this represents like the large group that is on social media. But it's just it sounds like there is some developments. I would say on the party front. Do you want to get into that, or do you want to wait, because that's pretty big. Do you want to leave that? I'd rather talk forensic poll. I don't know if
I know.
You're willing
Okay,
to
here
go
let's
there.
go. Remember, I'm old now, pre-dementia. I'll go one subject at a time. I'm honestly, I've heard a little bit about that, and I mean it. I mean it. I really try to filter my following the stuff going on in Alberta, because we have our hands full in Arizona, Val.
We do. Yeah,
I've been a national manager, I've been a regional manager, I've been a district manager, I've been a branch manager, been a general manager, been a general sales manager, been a sales manager. And it's really kind of always the same thing. You have an idea to project. It should be a great idea. The truth is easy to sell. Boom, boom, boom. And we get things done. And that's actually kind of, to digress, that's kind of what we do here. Yeah. On the Alberta thing, I'm just going to say, and I really, I no details at all. There's no need to go into details, or like you say, people, because there's a lot of people up in Alberta. I mean, a lot more that are just on social media or in groups. Val, you know that.
Well, are we talking registered voters?
No. Just in general, there are a lot of groups up there. There's a lot of different social media groups, but there are a lot of groups that never go on social media. So all I'm saying to everybody is, I see it as the big Alberta picture. And really, from going to be diplomatic here and stuff, I'm really concerned. Just the limited stuff that I see, I'm really concerned. Only because, as I've said, and as we've published and we've talked on radio, I'm really concerned that we in life of infighting, and just honestly a bunch of bullshit. Okay. I really
like ego, or what do you mean, like fist fighting?
I'm just telling you, people, groups. Honestly, and I'm going to be broad brush here, but it's anytime you get associations or whatever, or teams or whatever, you end up infighting. Just like Ronald Reagan said, the 11th commandment is, do not speak ill of a fellow Republican, because we're on the same team.
Do you think there's ever any time though, sometimes you just need a whooping?
Well, yeah, and I don't even think it's that. I think it's just an adjustment. There's only one thing. Again, I always disclose this. You know this. I disclaim stuff. I was a finance guy. I try to under promise and over deliver, not the other way around. And what I see right now, and I've said this and I'll repeat it a million times, Danielle Smith, God love her, because I really respect her. She won, fact check me, there's a few, one or two numbers out there, 932,000 votes, roughly, for Danielle Smith, and she's the premier, and she's a strong premier. I've talked to a number of kind of inside scoop conservatives up there, and a lot of them are happy with her. I'm just saying. I speak both sides, dueling citizens. And
that's very diplomatic.
Well, yes. But here, but Val, I'm going to keep that leash short today, right? But it's really simple. I don't care how anyone slices it or dices it. Less than 1 million people in Alberta are the ones that vote. Okay, it's like not complicated. And in an up or down referendum, which is the only thing that matters, is there a referendum? Yes or no? Being called is, and I don't think it should be right this minute. Side note, secret from the inside. Is it going to be called? But 2, is it going to be an up or down question? Do you want to be the 51st state of the United States? It's like James would say, right? Yeah. And none of this René Lévesque Sovereignty Association question. Come on, man. Don't be a teenager. Don't be a spoiled teenager. Seriously. And so I say, I think we have, and I'm just going to be direct here. This is off the cuff. I think there's somewhere between 900,000 to 1 million yes votes in Alberta if it was really clean and real concise and an up or down question. That's the question, is can you have a referendum called? Can it be a clear up or down, and will you follow the people? Period. Because they're following Danielle Smith because she was voted in. Simple.
Are you talking like the major movement of the people that are like for her for governor? Like that came out last week.
Sure. Well, there's lots, honestly. And I forgive everybody kind of for just really scrambling around with passion and mission and all this stuff. They think they're AB 51. They might be hurting their own cause, but blah, blah, blah. And I think the overall passion is there, how they're going about it. Again, maybe that's for another conversation. But
well,
it's stuff that's not. It's stuff that's already published. I'm just saying, there's only one thing anyone in Alberta needs to be doing right now, and that is, excuse me, Val, I'm losing my voice now.
Well, I don't think
and that is marketing the benefits of being the 51st state, a citizen in the 51st state. Do you want 45 cents a liter? Yes or no? Do you want no carbon taxes? Do you want no equalization going out? Do you want your pensions guaranteed in U.S. funds? Do you want truly national security? Do you want an open border where you down into the states where you can be? Again, on and on and on, Val. What is those benefits? Do you want your cell phone to be, they're offering us old people now like 25 bucks a month, $15 a month for cell phones because it's the free markets. Do you want that? If yes, that's fine. The only way to get that is to live under the U.S. Constitution.
Well, I don't mean to overlook the diplomacy angle, but where I think there's an error is just backing her to be governor. Like, I think that there's a major amount of people that haven't had their say yet and are addressing that, right? Like,
is there any movement?
I'm talking the NDP. The NDPers
sure.
are not. It's not working for them either, and
sure.
So I don't know if they're going to go along with just Danielle Smith, governor of Alberta, USA. They very well may not. And so I think it's important to address one, which Albertans are you going to leave out from answering the question? Like which ones are you going to leave out? Are you actually, because that's very dictator-ish. And when women try and pull it off, it just doesn't work. You got to be fair to everyone. You have to straight up let everyone answer the question for themselves. And if the plan is, well, we know that the block of NDP voters, which is something like 500,000, we're not going to let them have a say.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a terrible decision, Greg. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's 500,000. We've talked about this a lot within our circles. How many? For the most part, NDP voters have been very difficult to communicate with and contact. Simple. Long story short, and we've identified down here in Arizona probably 500,000 registered NDP voters. I mean, in March they went in with valid ID. They voted for the NDP candidate. Yada yada. And I believe the number is 500,000 that have not opined either yes, no, or undecided on the AB 51 question. Real simple, like that, simple as that. I've known from a demographic standpoint, I grew up with, quote, NDP folks. And again, with Quebec liberals, in some cases, put the NDP to shame in terms of socialism, right? Simple. But the interesting thing, again, thanks for kind of roping me in this conversation, is I think there's 500,000 people. The only thing AB 51 people need to do is identify them or talk to them. Say, are you a yes? Are you a no? Are you undecided? If you're undecided or a no, let's talk benefits. And are you yes or no? If it comes to the referendum, you can only be yes or no. You can't be undecided. You can just be a loser and not participate, or write-in vote, whatever. It's really a simple thing. My biggest question, and you know what? Okay, I'll spill the beans here, Val. I'll spill the beans. Secrets from the inside. I really I've been hesitating on this, but only because of time and funding and everything else, and crazy times that everyone I know is having. If I did actually launch the project let's just say January, let's say the first week of January, it would be trying to identify these nice NDP folks and trying to find out yes, no, or undecided. It's as simple as that. It can't be zero, because nothing's zero. But every, quote, NDP person or, quote, Canadian Liberal, Montreal Liberal, I voted for a bunch of them. Robert Bourassa, I voted for. Vote again. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, all those old guys. But even René Lévesque, they were pretty pragmatic guys. René Lévesque sold the English population that he was working for them, right? Until the day after the election. It's the ultimate Joe Biden. Anyhow, I digress there. But I think it comes down to just a very simple thing. I think in the new year, I'd like to, or at least maybe if I can do something about it, I'm not going to say forensic poll. It's a whole different, it's apples to oranges here. Most of the NDP liberal folks that I know love 45 cents a liter gas. They love Subarus. For a number of great reasons. Subaru is one of the first cars I'd buy. A little more expensive, but all four-wheel drive, blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, I've known most of them are very budget-oriented. I love it. They love to praise global warming, but they don't really like to pay cash for carbon taxes, or if given the choice. I've done research on that in Washington State on licensing issues, whether liberals choose to pay the lower license fee or the regular higher license fee. Anyhow, that said, that'd be my question.
What is their culture? What is their culture like? Are they more communist? You spoke to the communist leader.
Yeah.
Does the Communist Party just do one vote and the dictator decides all? Or are they going to push back and demand to be treated as an equal and say to Danielle, you're not our governor, that's a vote. You can't make assumptions like that. We get to decide. One starting at point A. Do you want Alberta to leave Canada and join the United States and become the 51st state? Yes or no question here.
Right.
Are they entitled to that question?
Of course. You ask a question kind of comparing NDP to maybe the Communist Party, maybe to other parties.
Well, yeah. Is it a blanket vote? Does
absolutely
the captain
not.
just vote for everybody?
What's interesting is because I do my homework. I spoke with the Communist Party and leader and got
of
a real
Alberta?
good. Yes. You know that. Well, of course, we've published it. We've talked about it. It's on. I think it might be on you. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Either way, because
I
again,
don't assume anything. You guys talk to presidents, you talk to
I
Joe
talk to.
Biden, like.
Now, what I find, and I really mean this, it comes down to the same theme, Val. I'm sorry to sound like a broken record. There's my Canadian. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record. It just comes down to the people. I talked to the Communist Party leader, and I talked to her at least 3 times by phone and a few emails. And the interesting thing is, I'm just saying, hey, trying to get a feel. We're trying to identify who is yes, who is no, who undecided. It's not complicated, right? And what started as a definite no, this is factual. I can't believe we're talking about this. What started as a definite no questions became okay, why? And then became another conversation. And I'm finding, this gal wasn't any different than me or you, Val, or someone in the Conservatives or Liberal or NDP or whatever, for the most part. Sorry about the 80-20 rule. These people have gas. They have gas tanks to fill. They got groceries to buy. They're much more down to earth than you'd think. It's just like James says, a 3-time Purple Heart leader, but he's babysitting his granddaughter this morning. These are all we are. And honestly, this conversation with this gal, it was awesome, was a no, definite no, and then a pretty deep conversation, and then a follow-up phone call. And then I won't speak for her, but I'd say I think she's right now, I think she's probably undecided. But that's how it goes. And I've had almost identical conversations with UCP folks up there, Val.
Well, what I like
NDP
is
folks have been very elusive. NDP are very elusive. And I think they're just regular folks. I think they'd rather pay $35 for their license fees in Washington State than pay $400 for their license fees. I just think so.
Well, when you break it down, break the list down of all the advantages of becoming a state: automatic dual citizenship, no need to give up Canadian citizenship, potentially no state income tax. Like, just imagine that right now in Alberta, Sorry, can you imagine? We're not going to take your money. Like, in Alberta, it works like this. You work from January to June, all of that money goes to the government, and then June to December, you get to keep what's in your pocket. So you're paying off your credit card from the first 6 months, and you still don't. So at no point do you ever have the opportunity to feel like I can breathe, my tummy's full, life is good. And it doesn't matter who you stick in there as the leader. It's the same thing. So
once again, I think we need to get off the concept of who Facebook memes for leaders, whatever. I think it's an irrelevant conversation right now. But I want to touch on one thing. You went through what I believe. Please tell me, did you do your homework on this and actually print out or have a copy of the benefits? Because I talked benefits like 5 minutes ago.
Yes, you
take
can
your time.
find that.
Okay, 4th grade teacher or grade 4. Go ahead. Bullet points. Here we go.
Okay, this one is on paper. So if you want to follow along, though, you can go to ab51vote.com and you will see it right there. Automatic dual citizenship, potentially no state income tax, tax agreement from the USA and Canada, healthcare plan for all Albertans, cell phone monthly plan average $50 a month, but that is off. I have a cell phone. We have 4 cell phones in our home, and we pay under $100 a month. 4. Okay, so you can shop around and get a way better deal. Groceries 50 to 70% cheaper. Utilities 50 to 60% less than Canada. Removal of carbon tax. Car insurance is a big one. 60 to 70% less expensive. Way more competition. And your overall day-to-day costs of living in Alberta, USA, are just going to be cheaper overall. Every time you turn around, you notice it. You're not paying stupid fees and extra taxes for whatever government dreamt up utopian idea they can come up with, like is happening with carbon tax in Canada. Alberta to not be landlocked. Alberta can import and export through tidewaters. 90% of exports already to USA. Alberta Constitution with the right to bear arms. And if you are, you love social programs made by government programs, they're way better here. They're just way more advanced. They're smarter, way more organized. And Alberta will be able to keep control of resources and funds, return of corporations lost to the USA competition, and federal government will be reduced by 67% when Alberta becomes a state. So that is a paper copy, but there's more updated ones on ab51vote.com.
Nice. That was we did a benefits page, that checklist, and we did a state constitution. What would a Alberta state constitution look like? And it's basically, you'll see, even James touched on this. Choose the state. I like Alaska because they have that awesome oil royalties program back to their citizens. I'm going to go off of memory here. It was the Sarah Palin. People don't realize Sarah Palin was governor of Alaska, but she was a record-setting governor. Always controversy, blah, blah, blah. But she had like an 80-something% approval rating, Val, by Alaskans. 83, 86%, because she had at least had a hand in getting oil royalties back to citizens. And I remember they get annual royalty checks, kind of like an IRS refund, whatever, but for oil royalties. I remember folks, they were getting checks in the 20s, like 22 grand, good money in the teens. And I think there's controversy because they've been wrestling about that a little bit too. But bottom line, why not? You have billions and billions and billions of dollars flowing with oil under the private sector. Hello, under U.S. capitalism. Hello, money from the U.S. pouring into Alberta for the energy sector, which is a good thing. They're $200,000 jobs, everybody. Hello. So you mirror Alaska, you drafted the state constitution, and there away you go. Because if it gets to a point where the U.S. Senate, 2024, the U.S. Senate talks about an invitation to AB 51 to Alberta to be a state, like just they did with Quebec and what they called provinces. They give an invitation. Here we go. And what do the people think? Okay, here we go. But they'll also want to know what the state constitution looks like, that it's in line with the other 50 states, because you can't do a constitution or any kind of a legislation that's anything like Canada. Are you allowed to freeze bank accounts? Sure. Under emergency situations, sure. No worries. Right? So state constitution would protect Albertan citizens from that type of oppression. And again, just mirror Alaska or whatever. I say toss in your state constitution. If you read it on the website, ab51vote.com, is draft. And this is rarely as a libertarian will I say write something into a constitution. But it's called simple. I think you do cradle to the grave universal health care into the Constitution, because you got plenty of dough. Why? Because you got plenty of dough to pay for it. Mirror, don't need to reinvent the wheel. Do what Kaiser Permanente did in Washington State and in Vancouver, Washington. Do what they do. Includes dental. Take your 5 kids in. There you go. Go do your dental appointments. Here we go. You want to do it here? There, whatever appointment, sure. Take your 2-3 kids in, pay your, maybe $10, maybe $15, maybe sometimes $0 if single moms or whatever. And that's what you do. You give your card, you get your medical care. Is there any wait? No. Oh, you need a prescription? Yeah. Okay. Just go down the hall to the other pod. And in 10 minutes, you walk out with your prescriptions at no charge.
So it's basically like a credit card. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, yeah, medical card, like Alberta Health. Yeah, you have an Alberta Health card. Simple. You walk in, you give your card. There's no question. There's no BS. And it's not like people think the U.S. system's bad, and it is in some bureaucracy stuff. But for the most part, you give your card. Here we go. It'll be pod number 2, blah, blah. No wait, no BS, no anything. And, you need an x-ray. Okay, we'll go down to, it's pod number 1, easy to get to, right in the building. You go down there, get an x-ray. Oh, we need some blood work. Okay, that's right there. It's right there. I did this at VAL. I went for x-ray. I said, what do you mean you got x-rays on the spot? God, I say, are you kidding? And then I get the phone call from the doctor that evening. I'm saying, so just do what they do. But it's in Alberta. You got your card, no cost. Again, sometimes there's co-pays down here. I did a full hip replacement, incredible world-class service. I paid $175 for it. Oh, co-pay. Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect. I mean, world-class service. Period. Deborah did. She won't mind me sharing. She did 2 hips in 12 months. My wife.
Incredible.
And she's Ginger Rogers, ready to dance with Fred Astaire right now. So
That's amazing.
I'm surprised it went to that. No, in Alberta. Well, what do we have to do to get that program? Well, number 1, AB 51. Okay, and then number 2, wait for your Alberta healthcare card in the mail. You guys got the greatest physicians and facilities up there. You got the logistics. Need some Americanization as far as technology. Money would pour in. Technology would pour in. American expertise would pour in. Surgeons would pour in. Anyhow, side note.
You'd have competition. Yeah, you would. You're talking about competition.
Because there's plenty. Guess what? There's plenty of money up there, Val.
Yeah.
They can, and this is any government. You can pay for your bullshit. You can pay for cradle to grave, zero deductible health care for your people, including the funeral. I think so. Last I looked, I think Social Security pays like last time $400 or something towards your funeral. That doesn't even buy a pine box, guys. So come on, man. There's ways to improve on both sides of the border, but bottom line, to have these conversations, you can't do anything until a referendum's called, up or down vote, and go from there. That's it. It's simple. The only thing I know is I'm going to double nominate Captain James McCormick to be governor of Alberta. And if anyone thinks for a minute that Captain James, as you blessedly call him, Captain James, that he's either in anything label, whether it's long-winded, whether it's opinionated, where like he says, where you're the racist, you're this, you're the whatever. He doesn't care. If you think that what he talked about today is nonsense, then you're a loser, and you didn't listen to what he said. Okay? You're like an operative or something. Okay? They're not allowed on this show. You know this, Val. I told you 2 years ago, the whole key about radio or anything else is make sure you know who's not invited. Remember that? For a lecture series or whatever. So if anyone thinks in any way that James McCormick isn't game-changing, life-changing, then they haven't listened to what he's had to say. And that's what radio is all about. If anyone doesn't think they got a fresh, new, different way to look at Alberta is through Val Olson's eyes, they don't know what they're doing. They need to listen to Val Olson for Alberta stuff, if anything, for that point of view. And then if anyone wants to hear both sides of any conversation, they go to Dueling Citizens. Greg Meakin, featured on Secrets from the Inside Radio. Can you believe this broadcast, Val? Can you believe it? Episode 6, likely going to take a Christmas break, or at least a break until early in the new year and then resume the next episode. Just for everybody's sake, including Captain James. And you're going to be such a busy mommy, man, over Christmas. But I don't know if you want to start to wrap up a little bit here. Anything, burning desires or whatever. We've talked about a bunch of stuff. And I also do want to do my first ad hoc, which will be a quick hour of you, me, James, kind of talk about this and maybe drill down into Alberta a little bit because we broached a lot of secret subjects today, right? Just whatever. And bring a different point of view. I don't care. I got a buddy in Ottawa. I kid you not, Val, kid you not. Dear buddy, who he said, this Alberta vote's stupid, right? Mandatory. I'm just saying mandatory East Coast attitude, right? You can never have it. I said, okay, dude. If a referendum were held, up or down vote, what percentage do you think would be yeses? Okay. And he said 5% tops. I said, you're saying there'd be 5%, meaning 95% no's? No, I'm almost laughing now. Said, hey, dude, is there any way you want to go to Vegas with me right now? And I don't even gamble. The over under 5%. That's like hysterical. And there's a guy who totally believes that, Val. You know, I won't say my number, 60%. I won't say that. But it ain't no 5%, right? One phone call. We got 15%. I mean, just this afternoon, right? Come on, man. Anyhow, thanks for getting these secrets from the inside out of me, out of Captain James McCormick. Been a few from you, but turn it over to you here. Believe it or not, you know, take a minute or two, kind of wrap, knowing that we're going to talk further about this stuff. This was amazing, dude. This was amazing today.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I didn't really get into names. I've just, I'm seeing that major stuff is happening in Alberta. And like, I think, your forensic poll, 857,523, those numbers, if you were to reopen it, would drastically change because word is just spreading. I mean, with Tucker, obviously we know the countdown. There's actually a countdown for Tucker to come to Alberta. So he will word punch you and he won't hold back. And he's a real researcher. He does his homework and he will get the facts. And so, that is coming up in January. And so, your poll is recent, but we're going to see it's going to be much, much, much higher than.
Well, we've already said that, Val. We've already said that.
Yeah.
And I love the number though. I love the number that you keep because it is. It's a crisp, clear number based on July 31st when we extended the voting. The secret from the inside is that a bunch of people tried to vote after that, which they're allowed to. Hell, it's a private enterprise. Go ahead. What do you want? You want to comment? What will your vote have been? And we added votes to the poll. You know that, Val?
Yeah.
It went over through. It ended July 31st because it's my son's birthday, so I always remember that. But we got actual votes. And full disclosure, they're all yes votes in August and September. Just there you go.
Yeah.
And so we got that.
But that was summer. That was summer, and
sure.
We're in winter now, and the weather's changed in Alberta.
Absolutely. The number's higher. I published it. I put the over under if it was really, really, really clear cut and stuff at 999, 999. That's just and whatever. I already published that. We're talking about a lot today, but we've already published this stuff. We've already talked about this stuff. I think the number's going up, but here's the caveat too. I have a lot of people say, will that be the vote count? I'm saying, I don't know. They're going to show up. That's number one. Just because you got 857,523, doesn't mean they're going to show up. They've said we've identified them as yeses. And again, I'll defend that. Take a bullet for that. But it doesn't mean they're show up. It doesn't mean they're going to lift a finger and actually do what they said. I mean it, Val. And so that's kind of the other side, the dueling citizen and me just saying, I hope everybody is ready to go here. Seriously.
Yeah, I know Alberta,
I hope you guys get your ducks in a row and your billboard program stuff start selling benefits. Hope you start looking to NDP voters to say yes, no, or undecided, and make a short, quick case of the benefits. We don't hear, and I'm just going to say it. It's been incredible, the knowledge that's been placed in, including on all these groups. It's incredible. It's taught me endless ages of information. But now's the time for marketing. It's selling benefits, and it's not. Again, it's not infighting. It's not whatever. You're all amongst a group that I feel is really crowding 1 million. But that's, again, it's just me. So just act like it then, okay? Go after your opponent. You don't need to beat each other up. It happens all the time. It happens in sports all the time. So if I sound passionate, it's probably because I'm getting tired, but end up losing my voice. But you got secrets from the inside out of me, Val, today. You got secrets from the inside out of Captain James McCormick today. And I got secrets from the inside out of both of you. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's the whole point of the brand. It's the whole point of Secrets from the Inside. You don't know what they're going to say. I had no clue what I was going to say today, but it became really, really, I think it's going to be a historic show, but that's just me. That's just me. Take a couple here. Either way, Val, a couple minutes here. The heart, the mind, the whatever. Go ahead and coo over me or plug me all you want here. I love it when you do that.
Well, I'm just gonna reiterate what you said.
Go ahead.
It's always painful to watch a fist fight, but I mean, sometimes that's what has to happen. It's what separates the men from the boys. And the smartest, the smartest win the war, so to speak, and or win the fist fight too. And if you're a smart person, ab51vote.com is where you go. It's really simple. Your daily life. From day one of Alberta, USA, you will enjoy, number 1, dual citizenship forever. Number 2, retain your Canadian citizenship. Number 3, new Alberta healthcare, just like Canada, but American world-class care. Number 4, pensions guaranteed in US dollars. Number 5, 45 cents per liter gas. Number 6, groceries reduced by 25%. Number 7, 3 times the selection of consumer goods. Number 8, 75% less taxes. No provincial income tax, carbon taxes, etc. Number 9, work at U.S. companies. Number 10, unrestricted travel to 50 other states. Number 11, no language laws. Number 12, household income jumps 25% plus. Number 13, easy to start a business. Number 14, free to own legal firearms. Number 15, 50% lower utility bills. Number 16, choose from 3 to 5 schools for kids. No cost education. Number 17, cell phone bills drop drastically. I would budget for like $75 per month.
To clarify, that was great. You read there verbatim off the ab51vote.com website. That's what we produced, actually. And important, the previous numbers that you had talked about was from, I think, a separate report or whatever. The most important thing here is that this is stuff to talk about. What will be the reduction in groceries? Will you be able to get rid of the, I don't like those provincial income taxes. Don't like those. That's like state income taxes. But can we do that? And let's kick it back and forth. All the numbers are irrelevant, whether you save 1/3 on your groceries or whether you save 2/3 on your groceries. The point is, are you going to save on your groceries? Right. So again, no one get too micromanaging on the numbers, but I really do. I'm so glad you read those, Val. I really love that, the one that we produced, that checklist. And I've always welcomed folks. I got a huge response. Welcome folks to add to it, or tweak the numbers. I think there's more savings than is there that are on there, I think we did 1/3 less groceries or something and whatever. But again, these are the numbers to kick around, but there's stuff to talk about, but not to argue about and not to self-destruct about. The key is, can you get a referendum called? Not this minute, just saying. And will it be an up or down question? And that's it. And as you say, will people be entitled to register and vote and go vote? Yes or no? I mean, just there you go. So there you go. Sorry to simplify that, but it really does always come down to that with me, Val.
Well, is it a human right? That's what you're talking about. Are Albertans entitled to human rights? And just to get nitty gritty granular here, are all Albertans entitled to the human right to answer their own question? Yes or no? And, if you want to follow it up with the next question, I would ask, do you feel that the taxes right now in Alberta are a ripoff? Yes or no? That's a universal, easy to understand
Yes.
language.
Isn't that great?
Not
Seriously.
rocket science. It doesn't matter if you have your PhD.
But it's very American. You're talking more American every day, Val, because it is. Americans ask yes or no questions. They really do.
Albertan American. Yes.
There you go. There you go. I love that.
Yeah. Now's not the time to flaunt your I'm important. Right? Like, just shut it down.
Sure.
Shut it down and print off the page. It's really simple.
Right.
Your daily life, print that off and get that out there, and that's all you have to do. Easy peasy.
The biggest question I get are the simple ones, but they're biggies, but we need to talk about it. People say, what about my health care? Okay, let's just talk about that. It really will be better than you've ever known, but let's at least talk about it. What about my health care? And here's the biggie, Val. It can never happen. That's the biggie. I'm saying, well, okay, let's assume it can't. Are you yes, no, or undecided? But you don't stop the conversation because you think it can't happen. Because I assure you, if the founding fathers of the United States had anything to say with it, it can happen.
Yeah. Go take it up with them. It's already in the Constitution.
There you go. You have everything set up. I mean, goodness, if you need border patrol, the U.S. has border control. You need law enforcement, they have law enforcement. You need military protection, we got it. It's literally almost like signing the deed over to a new buyer where you say, hey, we have U.S. law enforcement, we have blah, blah, blah. And it's called protections. It's called protections.
Yeah, they're already doing it.
Exactly.
The U.S. military is already contracted to look after us. The Canadian government has already signed our protection over to them. So this is a very easy to operate business deal. You bring everyone to the table,
right?
And let's do it. I'm going to let you close out, Greg, because my battery is close to dying.
Oh my God, something ended the show. Isn't that great? Like a dance-a-thon. That wouldn't end it. A little battery. They just, whatever, they'd bring in a truck another battery or something. Keep the dance. No, I'll only close out by you're touching on really, really key stuff. There's been more new news here today and confirmed stuff. Very confirming and confirmed stuff. And I just forever and ever just assure everybody to keep it simple. Nothing's going to happen until 2024, everybody. I mean, seriously. Be cheerful. Again, share benefits. Seek out NDP voters and find out why no or why undecided. And then when a referendum comes up, make sure they go to the polls, right, and vote. People just say they will and they don't, Val. To me, that's a cardinal sin, because in the United States, the one thing they guaranteed was the right to vote. And none of this nonsense that people see on the mainstream media. No. You can vote in the United States. You can, and that right's protected, period. And again, on a side note, I was really impressed the way Alberta ran their last election, seriously. But you're guaranteed the right to vote. You're guaranteed the free speech. It's getting tough down here, but bottom line, it's not gonna, woke stuff ain't gonna work down here long term. So, but the bottom line, do it, vote. My little sign off, which I really will wrap it up, if anything, for battery reasons. I love it. Do visit my website, gregmeakin.com. That's spelled GregMeakin.com. It's got everything there, including my bio. Please go to my YouTube channel, which is oddly at Greg Meakin. I should be launching publishing, the Tanner Show, the amazing Tanner Show, hopefully by tomorrow. It should have been earlier, but it's going to be amazing. And we'll see if we can do something with this show. You know what I mean? But anyhow, do visit my work, visit the Captain's. He plugged them earlier. And final sign off, if you still have battery for you, Val, is for yourself. Plug yourself, obviously. I say follow Val Olson, but I always finish off every show and every lecture and every mentor visit with the same thing, and every book the same thing. Wake up in kindergarten every day. There is so much to learn in so little time, because before you know it, you're in grade 1. That's my sign off, Val.
That's so good. I just want to thank Greg for Secrets from the Inside, episode 006. You can listen on demand 1 through 6, available on Greg's YouTube channel, Greg Meakin. You can go on his website, gregmeakin.com. And I just want to let you know, Alberta, back to my radio days, I know a lot of famous people, and I think they do it right here in the USA on American Idol, as an example. They can pick an American Idol in minutes. Okay. I know how they do it. And that is available in Alberta. Okay. Real simple. Really, really simple. We need an answer to a yes or no question across Alberta. It's not complicated. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Episode 006, Secrets from the Inside. Thanks so much.